All right, everybody, what's going on? What is going on? All right. Couple things to discuss, right? A few characters we need to go through and evaluate them at this point in time. Because there's a certain worst generation that has been living up to their name of being genuinely the worst generation of pirates that we have maybe ever seen. Luffy, Blackbeard, take these two away and what do we have? Nothing. Bunfagum says stop taking showers, Lord Demork. Alright. I guess I'll just stop showering for the sake of the stream forever. That's the way we do it. Right on Morj time. Yeah, that's true. We're on Morj time. Guys, let's get the stream likes to 100. Let's get the stream likes to 100. DildZXO says, Lord, do not shave your beard. Probably will tomorrow. Virgil Hawkins says, you're talking about Law, right? Okay, Law is, I mean, we can be honest, right? Law has done the best out of the Supernovas. Zoro? Oh, I'm not counting Zoro. I mean, Zoro's he's not a captain, right? I guess we'll talk about I wasn't going to rate Luffy and Zoro because we kind of know it's almost unfair, right? At least Luffy is unfair to compare the other Supernovas to, right? I was going to grade the other, Sabaody 11, right? I was going to grade those guys. I don't know. Because the Sabaody 9, I suppose. Yeah, I know Zoro's a supernova. G Sejiro says the audacity to beg for likes after leaving us waiting. This must be what toxic love feels like. Yeah, let's get the likes to 200. Let's do it. We can do it. Ethereal Split says Kid should be on S tier for Shanks. What? Best Gamer 99 says Killer isn't a captain. I was basically going to rank outside of the Straw Hats because there's nothing to say about the Straw Hats, right? The Straw Hats have done so well, right? They've exceeded everyone's expectations. They're what? I don't know, a month or so into the New World, and they already took down a Yonko Empire, right? I mean, they're the only ones who took down the Beast Pirates at the end of the day, pretty much, right? Because Kid and Law, the other Supernovas weren't involved in the defeat of the Beast Pirates, so the Strahds basically got full credit for that. Hawkbox says, they got credit, in terms of the world giving them credit, but I'm saying us giving them credit, right, in terms of what they've done. Hawkbuck says, LMAO Morj is 5'2", don't let him push you around. Morj legit hates eggs? What does that mean? What does that mean? Zoro gets the vice captain handicap boost. What does Morj hates eggs mean? I like eggs. I eat 2 eggs every day. Oh, I forgot to mute this. Wisdom Minari says, Patreon early access to Kid Slander. Oh, yeah. If you guys want to hear early access to Kid Slander, that was what my last Patreon podcast was. Patreon podcasts come out every Friday. Listen to them while you're driving to work or school or whatever you want to do. They're also member podcasts if you're a Yonko tier member and up. Easy to get access to the podcast, to listen to my unfiltered thoughts, stuff that doesn't make it to stream, that doesn't make it to video, that doesn't make it anywhere. Hidden content, I suppose. Ray Chia says, my man Urouge is about to come back bigger and badder than ever. I've got high hopes for Urouge. I was a Urouge doubter for a long time because Oda said, Urouge took out one of Big Mom's sweep commanders. I was like, who? We talking about Snack? Right? He took down Snack. Who cares? I don't think anybody finds... I just don't find that impressive. I was like, I'm sure that... At the time, I assumed that, X Drake could take out Snack, Hawkins could take out... I just had higher opinions of the Supernovas in general. I thought that we just hadn't gotten the chance to see the rest of the Supernovas shine, and I thought that the only reason Oda was hyping up Urouge was because pre-time skip Urouge was the least hyped, right? He had the lowest bounty, he did the worst against the pacifistas, so because pre-time skip Urouge was the least hyped, I thought that Oda's kind of... doing some damage control and hyping him up by giving him the first Sweet Commander feat, or the first Yonko Commander feat, which was taking out Snack. So not too impressive. I assumed that all the other Supernovas were set to do more impressive shit, right? Little did I know that, no, taking out Snack is about the best that it gets with these Supernovas. We're going to get to Urouge in a second. Guys, thanks for the memberships. Mason Hack, welcome to the Yonko. I appreciate it. I haven't seen you really chat much here, so that's always nice to see. And holy shit, thanks for gifting 10 memberships. Sorry, I'm in Twitch speak right now. 10 memberships out of the blue. Thanks, man. I really appreciate it. Yeah, great stuff. Big Bro Cook says, Morj, at one point in an old stream, you mentioned an Indian comic based on Hanuman. I don't remember what stream. Do you remember what this was? I don't think it was an Indian comic based on... It's a series. It's called Amar Chitrakatha. I own several of them. You know what's bizarre? You know how people have dreams, right? You guys do that shit too? Everyone dreams. For some reason, at some point in my dream yesterday, I was looking at a bookshelf of all the old comics that I've owned, basically. They don't exist anymore, right? So in my dream, I saw some Amar Chitrakathas on my old childhood bookshelf. I don't know why that came up. It's just a very random, universal coincidence. It's not like I think about that stuff too often. In fact, you're the first person outside of my own dream yesterday to remind me of that in forever. Young Doka says, what are the chances that Urouge is with Blackbeard? I have heard the 10th Titanic captain theories, but at the same time, then why is Urouge sitting up there on a cloud? It just doesn't... When did he join? He seemed like a free agent, right? Big Mom Pirates weren't saying, Urouge came in, Blackbeard's commander came in and took out Snack or anything like that. They just said, they talked about him like he's a free agent. He seemed like he was a free agent while he was sitting up on the cloud. I don't know. I think it'd be cool. Definitely would be interesting. Would give a good role for one of the Supernova in the grand scheme of things. Disaster Master says, better put Killer over Kid. Yeah, Killer is going to get a better grade than Kid, guaranteed. I have to explain how the grading works, right? We're going to set it up in a second. I'll explain how the grading works, right? Because it's not all... A lot of it is... I'll explain in a second, right? I'll explain. Flame Emperor says, off topic, but I was rewatching old Disney movies, and Gear 5th Luffy vs. Kaido really makes me think of Peter Pan vs. Captain Hook. You want to think of something that was basically very, very similar to Peter Pan vs. Captain Hook? I swear that Luffy vs. Crocodile is very similar, right? Captain Hook got Luffy's this young kid, very childlike heart, right? Very goofy, free-spirited. And then Crocodile's this evil, sinister, pirate. I would say Crocodile is almost the first truly... He feels like almost the first pirate that the Straw Hats fight, right? In that Buggy... And, he's got the hook and everything, all of that stuff, right? And Crocodile, right? We know Captain Hook and the story with him and the crocodile. Or was it an alligator? I think it was a crocodile, right? So I think that the Captain Hook, crocodile... We know that Oda likes his Disney movies, if you guys have watched Whole Cake Island at all, or read Whole Cake Island, right? We know he likes his Disney movies. I feel like the crocodile Captain Hook inspiration is definitely deliberate. Because, again, his name's fucking Crocodile. Captain Hook's arch nemesis was a crocodile, and Captain Hook has a hook, right? And then so Peter Pan versus Captain... I don't know. It just makes sense to me, right? What was I saying? Yeah, I think if you knock off the East Blue Pirates, right? Arlong's this weird fish monster thing, right? More than a pirate. Don Krieg, he is a pirate, but he's this battle armada guy. He's like a fleet commander, right? Not exactly what you see in the olden days of pirates. I don't know. There's just something very... Buggy's a literal clown. Kuro's retired. There's something very piratey about just the way that Crocodile thinks and talks and acts. Although I guess you could say even he's more of a mafia boss. I don't know. Crocodile's just cool. Still my favorite arc boss in One Piece. The Outback Pandas. Holy shit, another 50. Thank you so much. Sup, Morj. Trying to brainstorm what the next cover story could be. I haven't thought about that at all, so I'm interested to hear. So far, I have Sun Pirates, Big Mom Pirates, Sun Pirates. Oh, please, no. Big Mom Pirates. I don't want a fucking cover story for the Sun Pirates. Just let them be. Big Mom Pirates. Big Mom Pirates, we kind of got a cover story of that, right? Which was them getting robbed of their most valuable asset at Whole Cake Island. Big Mom waking up. Please, no. Yamato King. Yamato would be good, but I would prefer that we actually get the story arc with Yamato in the manga rather than a cover story, which might be surprising coming from me, but I always wanted Yamato to be a good character. You can go back and watch my initial reviews and thoughts on Yamato. I was very excited for her. I gave her a very, very long benefit of the doubt period of time before I was just like, this character's ass. So I would love for her to live up to the initial potential that she seemed like she would have. King and or Queen... Neo, I mean, I do enjoy when we get to revisit cover stories of past villains, right? Baroque Works, what was it? Baroque Works, CP9, those are good cover stories. But I feel like the cover stories nowadays are going to be more active and more focused on the things that are happening in the world because we're just at that point in the story. Mads or World Government Antics. Mads would be cool, but we've already been getting that. World Government Antics, that would be really cool. Toby Ropo times X Drake times Kid. No! 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 Oh my god. Fuck. How'd I do that? You don't understand, Outback Pandas. I was about to make you a moderator, because you've paid to mod, clearly. But I clicked on remove your chat. I'll still make you a moderator, but I'm so sorry, dude. That was... I don't know how to bring... Wait. Maybe I can bring the message back through the super. My bad, dude. I'm sorry. Also, what the hell's going on? How many people are joining here? Hold on. This is crazy. Let me see. Okay. Let me catch up on these members real quick, then we'll get back to supers, because some crazy shit's happening. Brandon O'Neill, welcome to the Yonko. Thank you very much for joining. You get access to the podcast. Mr. MMF2, thank you for being a Yonko tier member for 6 months. Love you, Mr. Lords. Keep up the good work. Also, Straw Hat Vanderdeck and character analysis when? Yeah, I don't know if that one's ever going to happen. Hurrying Lyrics just gifted 20 Mr. Morj memberships. Holy shit. Morj, now I can't feed my kids, says Hurrying Lyrics 44. Everybody thank Hurrying Lyrics 44, and thank you for being a Yonko tier member for 2 months. Everybody say shoutouts to Hurrying Lyrics 44. Everybody thank him. Everyone say your thank yous. And on that note, everyone should say thank you to Mason Hack too. Everyone be grateful. Everyone thank Mason Hack, and then thank Hurrying Lyrics 44. Thank the people who gave you the memberships. All right. And now let me catch up on Outback Pandas real quick. Let me see if I can find this chat. I'm so sorry, dude. I swear I was clicking just to... Oh my god. Alright. No, it says message deleted. If you could paste the rest of your thought again, I'm sure I'll find it. Sorry, dude. You're a mod now, though, so there's that. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry. This is the second coming of Oof. Big Bro Cook says, sorry, but can you spell the name of that comic, please? It's, I actually have it up right now. It's Amar, A-M-A-R, space, Chitra, C-H-I-T-R-A, space, Katha, K-A-T-H-A. Alright? And it's a whole, it's kind of, think of it more like Marvel or DC, so you're not signing, there's a shit ton of comics in this extended Hindu mythology universe, right? It's not like they're making up their own mythology, it's just illustrated drawings and kind of action-based storylines of Hindu myths, basically, right? But it's pulled directly from the mythology. They're not really doing much interpretation themselves, you know? Yeah, alright. Hawkins says, Tobias asks, where's the art in the background? For anybody that wants the Shanks poster, because the Shanks poster looks really, really cool. Hold on. I took it down because I want a better presentation for it. So I'm putting up either... I ordered a frame. The problem is that the frame, I don't have to get a new frame every time it's a new artwork or whatever. So we're also I'm going to try double-sided tape and just see if that looks better. But just for people's reference... Hold on. For the people's reference, right? If you were hyped from Shanks from the last chapter, take a look at this. You guys like this shit? Look at this poster. Pretty great. Pretty great. You can have this poster on your wall, above your bed, wherever. It is a phenomenal poster. It's actually genuinely really, really high quality. We only order high quality posters. It's like museum grade paper, archival ink, pigmented archival ink and shit, matte finish. It's a really, really good poster. It's fairly big. You guys can get it for yourselves. I'm going to pin this it was in the background of my previous videos. I want to present these posters better. That's what's fair for the artists and everything. So I'm not going to put it up until I've got good tape and shit, basically. But that's what it is. So it'll be probably be back up in the next video. And if you're not a Shanks fan, check out the store because there's more art by the same guy of other characters you may really like. Hawkins says, do you really think Oda would set up a clear rival for Luffy just to have him be forgotten about after this? Everything Oda has planned for Kid starts now. His loss against Shanks will humble him. So I've got a video about that coming out tomorrow. I think that's very possible. The biggest thing I'd say to this, though, is that while this would be great, in theory, the issue I have with it is that it's a very redundant storyline because we had it's the exact same beat for beat setup. Exact same beat for beat setup as what we had for Kid in Wano with Kaido. Same exact thing happened. That one was arguably worse because, you know, Killer got the smile fruit and all that shit happened to him, right? Shanks' Crew isn't going to do that here. So the same exact storyline already happened and it was completely wasted, right? So to me, it's as though if Oda does it here, it just seems... It's great that he's doing it, but it's just a little absurd to me because it would be as though... It would be like the Sabaody event happened twice for the Straw Hats to be like, we should train. Or, you know, imagine the whole Sabaody event happened. It's like the Straw Hat Pirates were annihilated. Then they get back together and they're like, all right, let's keep going or whatever. Who gives a fuck? And then the Sabaody event happens again. And then they're like, oh, let's train and come back stronger. It's like, what was the point of doing it twice? Why do it twice? Because the impact is only really there. The power of the incident is there when it happens the first time, right? Kid Pirates completely annihilated, completely out of their depth, everything like that. They just walk through Wano as though nothing happened, and Kid's just saying, I'm going to get my vengeance on Kaido. Learned nothing changed. Showed up to Kaido, literally didn't know how to hurt him. He had to settle for Big Mom or whatever. There's just nothing... It's just... There's... Me reading the Kid Pirates were completely eradicated, that only really makes sense to me, or it only really has weight if they're actually out of the story. Because if this is a setup for the Kid Pirates to get back up and actually have a character arc, then I'm like, wait a second, this fucking narrator's an idiot. This whole thing already happened. This is nothing. Are we supposed to be, if this is just a setup for Kid to get back up and get stronger, for the Kid Pirates to get back up and get stronger, why didn't Oda do this in Wano instead of just writing a nothing storyline for Kid? It's the exact same plot setup. The exact same crazy event of the Kid Pirates being eradicated already happened once. Nothing came of that. That was kind of just like hand waved away. Now it's happening again and it's supposed to be a big deal as though this didn't already happen once. To me, it's only a big deal if they're actually out of the story. If this is just a setup for them to get back up, get stronger, then I'm just looking back at Wano and everything that happened with Kid before this, and it's just so redundant and so unnecessary and just so pointless. You know, you could have had this event be the crazy event that kind of sparks something for Kid, and it would have meant something if it had never happened before, you know? What is going on? Hold on. What's all this stuff going on? What's going on? Hold on. The Outback Panda says the last one was a joke. It was just Kid Pirates opening a costume shop, maybe a clown shop, right? Formatting ruined it, but I meant the Big Mom Pirates at sea and King and Queen getting involved with the Neo-Mads or the world government. See, the thing is we can't really follow storyline for the Beast Pirates because there's nothing left for them, right? So, yeah, maybe if we're following a past enemy, it would be the Big Mom Pirates. So I do like that idea. Okay, let's see. Okay, Mason. Holy shit. Oscar Cruz gifting 20 memberships? Everybody thank Oscar because all these sound effects are going off. I don't know what's happening. Thank you so much, Oscar. Everybody else thank Oscar, too, because you guys get the benefit, really, right? Named. Holy shit, are people just this happy that Kid was defeated? What's going on? Guys, let's get the stream likes up to 300. Name, thanks for being a Yonko tier member for 6 months. Kid and Killer joining Blackbeard because the rest of the bums died to Shanks is only way I can see them coming back with importance. Holy shit, if Kid joined Blackbeard, that would be such an interesting development, but it's so wild. I mean, Kid's a nasty dude, right? We already saw he was going to eliminate the entire red-haired pirates' innocent fleets, right? And they seemed like some really chill people who are honestly kind of helpless victims at the end of the day. So the line between Kid and Blackbeard is maybe not as huge of a gap as we like to think. He was portrayed as a good guy over the course of Wano, but he never really did anything good, right? Nerve AMV Maker says, reading Zoro versus Kabaji, it sounds like swordsman was anyone using a sword. Oh no, we're getting into this shit. Kabaji using extra techniques was a hurdle that Zoro as a swordsman had to overcome. Do you think that Oda changed what World's Strongest Swordsman meant? Nerve AMV Maker, thanks for the 10. I will say that I think that the fact that, because what we're getting at is Mihawk versus Shanks. I think all that matters is that I mean, not all that matters. I think it's a more complicated debate. But in terms of being the world's strongest swordsman, I think the simple fact that Mihawk and Shanks used to duel, and that was a significant thing for both of them, and in Mihawk's cross-skilled bounty hype from the Marines, I remember they were comparing his sword skill to Shanks. I think we honestly don't have to get into the complications of what's the exact criteria for swordsman, because we know at the very least that in the One Piece world, right, Mihawk and Shanks do have swords duels, and Mihawk and Shanks' sword skill is compared to each other, right? Their sword fighting ability is compared to each other. So at the very least, these two characters are being framed in that light, right? The argument has always been Mihawk, I mean, for anyone reasonable, right? Mihawk and Shanks, Mihawk should beat Shanks in a sword duel, right? In a sword fight. It doesn't make sense otherwise, right? The argument for Shanks has always been, well, what if Shanks does stuff that, without using a sword, right? What if Shanks does stuff without using a sword, right? If you want to use the Kabaji example, you could say, well, there's techniques and stuff like that Kabaji used, but ultimately it was a test for Zoro. He wanted to compare himself to Kabaji in terms of a swordsmanship fight, and that's why their final attack came down to swordsmanship. If Kabaji had pulled out, I don't know, a targeted missile from space and pressed a button and launched that missile at Zoro, then I think we would all agree that that's outside the scope of a sword fight, right? So what we would say is basically Zoro deals with swordsmen who are tricky and use conniving shit, but at the end of the day, Zoro always wants to be superior to them in the aspect of swords, like straight sword-to-sword fighting, right? So the question is, would Shanks have some stuff that's outside the scope of sword-to-sword fighting, right? Remember, Haki is part of swordsmanship, so, if he's using Haki on his sword, that still counts as swordsmanship. So the question is, does Shanks use attacks that don't have sword stuff, that are completely different Haki shit that we have not yet seen? We'll find out by the end of Elbaf. There's no need to, I think, people get too heated over it, because we'll just find out soon, Brandon King, thanks for bringing a Yonko tier member for 3 months. If Whole Cake Island was the last cover story, and Reverie is next, maybe we get Decks of the World 3 Billion Berryman edition. I would love to see that. But honestly, I feel like 3 Billion Berryman deserved its own, kind of like what we got post Enies Lobby, where we actually got chapters devoted to getting to cut around to see character reactions in the world, right? Because this is Luffy defeating a Yonko. This should be his most significant and most important step of his journey in the entire story of One Piece, aside from actually becoming Pirate King, right? This should be significantly bigger than Enies Lobby. So I would really think that a cover story would be underwhelming almost for this, but maybe that's what we would get just time-wise. Also, happy 3 months, Morj. Yeah, thanks for being a Yonko tier member for 3 months, man. I really appreciate it. Okay, let's see what's going on. Caleb Brown said, next cover should be an Impel Down Breakout 2.0. That would be so crazy. I would love to get that in the actual manga. The way things are going, I wouldn't be surprised if we got something like that in the actual manga. All right. Hawkins, thanks for the 10, says... No, we covered this. No, we covered this, right? Roxas Vanitas 1 says, can Killer swim? Do defective smiles work like devil fruits? I think we actually got that answered recently. I think we got an example of that recently for some reason. Maybe not. We'll find out with Killer. I swear that there was something in the manga that indicated we found out. Pocket Monster says, do you think Smoker is coming to Egghead or Beehive? I think Smoker will be involved in Egghead just because Oda already wrote in a Smoker Vegapunk connection. Right? Tashigi is right there. Tashigi is right there. I imagine Smoker is going to be right there too. I think the proximity to Egghead matters there a little bit. Okay. I think I'm caught up on all supers there. Make sure I'm caught up on all members. Okay, I think I'm caught up on everything. Guys, let's get the stream likes to 300. That's where we're at now. Okay. It got answered in Wano. Oda explained it in SBS. Killer can't swim. It was said in SBM. Okay, SBS. Okay, they can't swim. So they're both technically fucked unless something miraculous, truly miraculous. Well, no. I wouldn't be surprised. Here's the built-in out if it really had to come to that, which is I think that the Giants might swoop in and save them for some reason or another. Or not for some reason or another, because in theory they should, right? Because they owe them, correct? The Giants should owe the Kid Pirates to a degree because they're, the ones who took out Big Mom, right? At least 50% of the credit. Okay, we should get to grading this stuff. 1 second. Mr. Crescent says, you know what? Everyone forgets that Kid was an awful person who murders innocent people for no reason. The reason that was given, as I understood it, was that they used to laugh at him for his dreams. So I don't know if Kid was necessarily going out and just hurting innocent people for no reason. It was more so, my assumption was basically, Kid was just the type of character that would not take, the way that Luffy and Zoro stepped down in the bar and refused to, actually fight back because people were making fun of them. Kid didn't tolerate that. If you talked shit to him, then you got what was coming to you. So I put that in the category of, not a good person like Luffy, but in the category where I think in terms of fiction, by fiction standards, there's often lots of leniency. In fiction, right, there's a lot greater leniency for anti-hero type characters, so we tend to forgive certain things that we wouldn't forgive in real life, such as, this roguish character that likes to steal or lie or trick people a lot, like a Jack Sparrow. Kid's obviously not that, but I'm saying in the category of, does he fall under the fictional umbrella of where we tend to give characters a pass for certain traits? I think Kid was kind of verging in that territory where if he's only hurting innocent people because they're talking shit to him, you could argue that falls in the same category of Ace getting into fights as a kid because people talked about, what they would do if they saw the son of Roger or something like that, right? Obviously, in the real world, getting into fights for such petty reasons is not something, or just over words is not looked well upon. But in the One Piece world, this is part of just being a strong, formidable pirate. You don't let people talk shit about you, about your dreams or whatever. If you're gonna talk shit, get hit. It's the pirate's world. I give Kid a pass in that sense, right? He's not as good of a person as Luffy or Zoro, but I honestly thought it was cool that, hey, here's a dude that, is walking through the One Piece world telling everyone he's going to be Pirate King. If you make fun of him, well, you're going to get your ass beat because that's just who this dude is, right? I'd say, Kid we put in the anti-hero context of similar to the way people view Vegeta nowadays or something like that, right? However, now we're heading over to the territory where, Kid was seemingly going to kill probably a lot of Shanks' crew, and sure, there are lots of pirates, but we saw how nice and, just gentle people they seemed like. Again, is that much different? No, they're pirates. They know what they signed up for. If they get killed by Kid, they get killed. But at this point, if Kid had actually murdered a lot of Shanks' innocent, old, weak crew members, I think seeing that would have made it very difficult for a lot of readers to actually view him as a good person anymore. Or not even a good person, as a likable anti-hero in any sense anymore, right? Balsam Fair says, do you think Shanks really wants to find the One Piece before Luffy? Who knows, he will bring the dawn? No, I think if Shanks really wanted to find the One Piece, it would have been found by now. I think if Shanks really wanted it, he'd have it. I think he just knows that it's not his to find, and I think that Shanks is going to try and give Luffy a run for his money as arguably the final gatekeeper to One Piece, right? Let's see the boy earn it, basically, is what I'm thinking. The mentality is. Caleb Brown says, can we please get a no, we covered this we covered this shirt. No, I think I'll always give like a bit of an explanation. MPA Slick, thanks for being a Yonko tier member for 6 months. Senor Morjan Freeman. Why am I Mexican now? Just want to say, F Kid, I'm looking forward to that slander video. Yeah, I think this is not to... With Kid, with Yamato, with characters like this, I am always open to good stuff happening for them in the future. But that good stuff that happens in the future will never reshape how I think about how they affected the story in the current day, right? Because especially if Kid is out of the story now, I will view him right up there along with Yamato as one of the two most unnecessary but most focused on characters in all of Wano that really added to the bloat of the arc, If you're a Kid fan, you just lying to yourself. Much love. Kid was the Supernova I looked forward to the most, right? He was the Supernova I looked forward to the most heading into the post-time skip because I just really like the idea of Luffy having a rival that's just a little more evil that he is, not a Blackbeard type evil, but just a similar-esque figure to Luffy that's just got more of an edge to him. I thought that there was a lot that could be done with that. So I can understand why Kid had fans. I would say I was a Kid fan or optimist for a long period of time, but damn, it's got to be a rough time right now if you're a true Kid fan. And thanks for the comment. Tricky Kyun says, with many prior villains coming back, where/how would you personally write NL back in the story or any antagonist of your choice? NL is easy to me. I think if he comes back, it would be great for his Devil Fruit to be farmed by the Blackbeard Pirates. He is a terrible character, like a terrible person. Not a terrible character, a terrible person, you know what I mean? So him getting killed off to have his fruit stolen by the Blackbeard Pirates would be great. It would make one of the Blackbeard Pirates really, really powerful. We want them to be endgame threats. NL's fruit is, to this day, in contention for the best Devil Fruit in the series, right? To this day, in contention for the strongest. So that's what I would do with certain characters like an NL. Pocket Monster says, didn't Kid kill a crew for trying to leave the New World? Yeah. But that's not an innocent person, though, right? That's a rival pirate crew, technically. We don't know. Guys, let's get the likes up to 400, right? So we've seen him do it before, but we didn't get much characterization for that dude. I think that if we saw the interactions between Shanks's charming bunch of losers, basically, right? If we saw Kid just murder them after that, it would be we'd look at him a little different. I mean, not a little different. We'd just be like, fuck this dude, right? That crucified dude, we didn't know anything about it. The only dialogue he had was him saying, please let me leave, right? So we're kind of just like, yeah, get it. Shut up. Kid didn't even kill him as far as we know. He crucified him. Maybe he let him down afterwards. Mr. Crescent says, okay, but he only had a high bounty because he was so ruthless, which implies that he's not that strong. No, because I think that's an argument people used to use for Kid, but that's just not the case, because by that argument, then, Don Krieg would have a 315 million bounty, right? We know that bounty is always, at least generally throughout the story, it's reflective of how much, you have to build a resume, right? You have to build a resume. Your bounty, it's not going to equate to strength straight up, obviously, but you're not going to have a crazy high bounty just for hurting innocent people, because then every run-of-the-mill pirate would have a crazy high bounty. Usually it's going to be, like, strength no matter what. The characters whose bounties have no correlation to strength are tremendous outliers, right? That's 8-year-old Nico Robin type stuff, right? In general, the way I view bounty and the way I think bounty is fairly consistent throughout the story is that whatever your bounty is, it's going to be representative of your strength, and then give or take based on other factors, such as, hurting innocent people. That's probably why the Beast Pirates have higher bounties than, say, Marco, even though Marco is stronger, right? Things like that. Same with Katakuri. He probably doesn't get out from Whole Cake Island much. But they're all in that same 1 billion range, right? So Kid's it's not like he's like 100 million berry level character, I suppose, pre-time skip, that randomly has a 300 something million berry bounty. And I think a lot of that, there's a lot of things that you can add into that reflect that, which is, portrayal. Kid was being portrayed side by side with Luffy pre-time skip for sure. And then also just the fact that Kid has a significantly strong first mate, and you yourself need to be very, very strong, as we've seen in One Piece, to have a significantly strong first mate. So Kid was the only one that was actually able to command a first mate like Killer, whereas the rest of the Supernovas basically had bums. So I don't think that, I'm sure that Kid wasn't as strong as Luffy pre-time skip, and Kid got the edge over Luffy by hurting innocent people, but that probably doesn't mean that Kid was really weak or anything like that. He probably, strength-wise was still probably among the strongest Supernovas pre-time skip. It's just that hurting innocent people and things like that probably gave him the bump up. It's also, just along those lines, think about it. You think Apu never hurt innocent people. You think, Hawkins never hurt innocent people. Hawkins hurts his own crew by turning them into dummies. We saw Hawkins has random people as voodoo dolls and stuff like that throughout the... Like, I assume all of these pirates, pretty much the majority of the Supernovas, with exceptions being secretly good guys like Law, they're all hurting innocent people. Beige is obviously going to be hurting innocent people. What Shaki said was that Kid has a higher bounty than you because he hurts innocent people and you don't, right? So The assumption being that's what's giving Kid the edge over you, but it's not as though Kid only has a high bounty because he hurts innocent people. Everyone does that. It's just the implication is that you would probably have a higher bounty than Kid, or it would maybe be equal if you weren't being such a good guy and Kid wasn't doing this extra thing of being a bad guy, you know? So long explanation for that, but I don't want to go back and like rewrite history to say Kid was always a weak character or something like that. He was clearly meant to be or seem like a strong character, you know? Hawkins says, side note, can't wait for you to read Kingdom. Oh man, I gotta read Kingdom. It has so much to sink your teeth into. I'm excited to see the content you could create from it, man. I am excited as well. Wrench Dodger 2000 says, Buggy and Big News Morgan's emojis, please. Yeah, actually, because now we gotta... So the number of emojis you have is based on the number of members you have. I haven't really checked recently what the limit we're at now is, but it's probably a lot higher, so we can throw in a lot more emojis. We might do another emoji picking thing soon. Although you guys don't have a ton of interest in that, so maybe I'll pick the emojis and give them, but I'll keep those things in mind. Okay, we got to get to grading the Supernova. Let me catch up on these and we'll talk about it. Okay, let's get the stream likes to 400. Shambles GGST says, love that Kid got destroyed, but knowing that Law is probably around the corner makes me sad. He's been my favorite character ever since we saw him. Law had a good showing, right? He had a good showing, and I doubt he's out of the story. So Law didn't go out sad like Kid, right? Law, I think, impressed everybody, including myself, with how he did against Blackbeard. AWOL R says, looking for an additional artist, looking to make some money as an artist if you know someone. I think Shanks made Kid, Future Sight his death, new hockey tech. If you have a Twitter, just follow me and at me and say you're AWOL R or whatever the artist, and then we can talk. If you're talking about thumbnail artist or if you're talking about trying to sell art, those are two very different things. I am always interested in adding more artists to the Morj store, but we are very picky with who we do for that. I mean, and I don't want you to take any sort of anything personal in terms of whether or not we feel something would be a good fit for the store, because, you know, that's just based on my best guess on what people might enjoy. And a lot of it's based on the type of artwork I enjoy. So I think that Shanks poster that we're selling that you can see in the link is a really, really fucking cool poster. And this guy in general generally has a lot of really good different styles of art. You're saying, I think Shanks made Kid, Future Sight his death. New hockey tech. You think Shanks made Kid see his own death? I don't know about that, man. I think that was Shanks' vision that we saw. Okay, I'm almost caught up and we can start doing the grading. Roxas Vanitas once says, Kid's bounty being higher than Luffy never made any sense to me. Luffy defeated 2 warlords and took down CP9. What did Kid do greater than that? Yeah, that's the thing that will never really get explained in One Piece, which is, forget Kid, what are any of these Supernovas doing? You know, Hawkins had a 250 million berry bounty, right? Luffy, 250 million is not even that far off from 300 million. So what are any of these characters doing that is getting them such insanely high bounties? I like to think that the one area that's kind of untapped that might explain this is maybe they're going up against strong Marines, right? There's 2 categories, I suppose you could say. So maybe three. So I think it's interesting that okay, actually, we can speculate on this pretty well, which is, there's no in-story basis for any of this, but I'm trying to base it on what would make sense that would also not make sense for the Straw Hats to be doing, okay? So, the 3 categories of things that I think that could get you a high bounty as an up-and-coming pirate is 1, going up against strong Marines, right? So that's something we never saw the Straw Hats really do pre-time skip. The only Marine that was a consistent trouble for them was Smoker, and Luffy never beat Smoker, right? Swap it in for a Supernova that actually does take out, you know, a character of Rear Admiral or even maybe Vice Admiral rank or something like that. That's going to get you a very high bounty, right? I think one of the big reasons Oda never had the Straw Hats go up against Marines is because, and actually in a focused arc against Marines where it ends with the Straw Hats defeating I don't know, Marine base or something like that. Obviously, the Straw Hats have fought against Marines plenty of times, right? But it might be because Oda's saving the concept of Straw Hats versus Marines in a full-fledged true conflict with them for the end game, right? So the first time we really see a huge conflict where the Straw Hats are up against many vice admirals, many admirals and stuff, and they actually have to beat them, not just escape like any slobby, would be saved for the end game because that's just more symbolically fitting of them coming full circle as pirates, finally having their big showdown with the Marines. I don't know. But that also means that just because the Strahds didn't do it, that doesn't mean that there weren't probably plenty of up-and-coming low-level pirates that were fighting strong Marines, right? So maybe Kid took out a rear admiral, maybe even a vice admiral. This is partly based on, you can look at the Ace novel, right? One of the biggest things Ace did before heading into the New World was taking out a vice admiral, and that really spread his name. So there are things like that. I think Oda tailored what Luffy did a lot to be more... it's not as though he necessarily took out stronger characters than any of the Supernova did. I mean, I assume Luffy probably did, but that's not the point. I think the point was more so notable characters, right? So taking out a Shichibuka like Moria, there's probably plenty of Marines. I mean, X-Drake himself is a rear admiral, right? You know, an up-and-coming Supernova might have taken out a rear admiral that's probably just as strong as Moria, but taking out Moria is a bigger deal in the scope of the world. So I think Oda probably tailored Luffy and his exploits towards taking out characters that are noteworthy public figures. Yeah, I think just noteworthy public figures, right? Like Rob Lucci is the strongest character in the history of CP9, right? Luffy could have fought maybe a vice admiral or probably a rear admiral that's just as strong as Rob Lucci pre-time skip, but that wouldn't have the same, cool factor of taking out someone really unique, right? Like the best CP9 member ever. So I think there's that, vice admirals maybe, then taking out other strong pirates that already exist. Luffy did that more so against the Shichibukai, but who's to say that there weren't other previously established strong pirates in the Grand Line that up-and-coming rookies were taking out? Again, Oda erred towards the Shichibukai because those are notable public figures, right? It's not as though Moria is probably stronger than all other Grand Line pirates, but he's got a title associated with him, so it makes it more interesting for Luffy to go up against that. And finally, taking out strong islands, right? Which is, Luffy and the Straw Hats never really attack or ransack islands, so they have to kind of earn their name throughout the Grand Line. They're actually handicapped in a sense. They have to earn their name throughout Paradise, not through attacking islands and things like that, or going up against the armies of various kingdoms or powerful cities, like other pirates probably do. They have to earn their reputation through, going up against Shichibukai or CP9, like the world government, right? Things that the reader can get behind. So in a sense, yeah, they're doing all this crazy shit, but these other pirates, who's to say, what if the Kid pirates, imagine if they had just if they showed up at Water 7 and just took out all of Galila Company or something like that, right? That's a big deal. It's just that the Straws would never do something like that. So, on the one hand, you could say Luffy and the Straws are doing all this crazy impressive shit. What are these other characters doing? Doesn't make sense. But then if you think about it, it's like, well, what if they're actually just doing actual pirate shit, and they're fighting characters that the Straws normally wouldn't fight? That makes sense to me. That's my headcanon, Sorry for the long explanation, but I think that makes sense, right? Okay, hold on. Sean Easton, thanks for bringing Yonko to your member for 6 months, man. When Shanks gets serious, he sheets Griffin and brings up his Duke. Yeah, he's just like, all right, it's time to get into fisticuffs. Also, shout-outs to chat. Never change, guys. Ham says, he did the thing. He says, Ham says, literally in his comment, Ham says, hey, Morj, I think Kid is a bad character. Thanks for the super chat, Hams. I completely disagree. I think Kid is the best character. Fuck you, dude. That's pretty funny, though. That's funny. MPA Slick, thanks for the 20. Mr. Morgan Freeman. Last time it was called Senor Morgan Freeman by someone. I like the Senor. If we had to compare Kid to an NBA bust / draft bust, who would he equate to in your opinion? I would say Ben Simmons. You're saying Kwame Brown or Greg Oden or someone like Markel Fultz, Dennis Smith, or even Ben Simmons. I would say Ben Simmons because My understanding is some, like a Markel Fultz or some. There's some people who were never initially that good. Ben Simmons had a lot of hype coming out of the gate, right? I remember looking at ESPN graphics and just general graphics showing, hey, and this is One Piece related, right? So don't even say anything, right? This is technically NBA, but it's also technically One Piece, and it'll take 30 seconds, right? There are things showing Ben Simmons' rookie stats versus Magic Johnson and LeBron's rookie stats, and how are his triple-double stacking up and everything. And Ben Simmons was a really exciting player for that reason. So he never did anything crazy good initially, but he had the hype surrounding him and the expectations surrounding him. And he did initially, I guess you're saying that's the same for every bust, but I would say the difference is that Kid, initially there was something to go on. Like, there's nothing there, right? I mean, Kid did help take down a Yonko, right, at the end of the day. He did help take down a Yonko. He is being portrayed as having reached probably Yonko first mate level. Some would still argue stronger than a first mate or something. I don't know. But he is a really, really good, in the grand scheme of things, he's a strong pirate, right? It's just that it feels, much like with Ben Simmons, that, okay, we've been waiting and waiting for you to take that next jump and be in contention for all-time great, and he's never going to take that jump. I mean, Kid might. Ben Simmons won't. JWP says, Kid-in-law got 3 billion bounties, looking a little goofy right now. Dude, they are goofy because they make no sense, because their bounties are based on a lie. I was saying this from the beginning, right? Their bounties are just based on a lie. They're not 3 billion very bounty level characters, right? The world government, as far as we understand, split up Luffy's bounty among 3 characters, essentially, right? They're treating it as though they all had equal contributions, which is why their bounties are all the same. But we the reader, know that their bounties more than anything are based on a lie, right? Katakuri's sitting there with a third of the bounty of Kid and Law. I mean, even if you think Kid and Law are stronger than Katakuri, they're not 3 times stronger. And it's not the same as, you could say bounties don't equal strength and everything like that. Yeah, but they don't also have the other things that would make you have a higher bounty. They don't have strong crews. Law doesn't have a strong crew. Kid has killer, but overall he doesn't have a strong crew. They don't have empires. They don't have that much going for them whatsoever. The only reason their bounties are 3 billion, I mean, their bounties are almost the same as Mihawk's. That's insane. It makes no sense. Their bounties are the same as Luffy's, and Luffy has, think about everything Luffy has had to do to get a 3 billion berry bounty, right? He walked into the New World, he had to take out Doflamingo, right? He had to basically start the collapse of Big Mom's empire, right? Raiding the empire and everything like that, taking out multiple of her commanders, right? So he's taken out one of the strongest Shichibukai Doflamingo, multiple Yonko's multiple top Yonko commanders in Cracker and Katakuri, right? He created a grand fleet that is significantly stronger than other Yonko fleets, right? I would argue Luffy's grand fleet, it is clearly stronger than Shanks' fleet. It is stronger than, we didn't see anything of, Kaido doesn't have a fleet, as far as we know. I mean, he has his individual Beast Pirate Corps members, but he doesn't have anybody outside of that, right? So Luffy's also got his individual Straw Hat members, who are stronger than Kaido's core crew, but then Luffy also has his grand fleet of characters that are, significant New World captains. Same thing with the Big Mom Pirates, right? Luffy's core crew is stronger than her core crew, and Luffy's got this grand fleet on top of it. Luffy's just stacked in terms of, achievements, individual strength. He is probably a top 5 strongest character in the world right now. Maybe he's looking kind of shifty against the Lunarians. Maybe we dock him a little bit, but he's capable of. He's on the Yonko tier, right, in terms of splitting the sky and stuff like that. Individual strength, his resources, right, his achievements, everything he's done. He's just done so much more. It's to the point that you can stack everything Kid and Law have done, everything they've done in the New World, all of their resources, meaning their crews, their fleets, right, their allies, non-existent, their achievements. You could stack everything they've done together, and it's still 30% of what Luffy's done. Their bounties are just a lie. It's just a ridiculous lie that Oda is feeding us, and it feels really hollow. I don't enjoy that because I get that bounties are just reputation, not strength, but I want to feel like we've seen Luffy don't do so much. I want to feel like his reputation matches what we've seen him do, right? Because isn't that the fun of the bounty, getting to see the kind of reward? Instead, we're getting this lie fed to us that Kid, who has 0 shot against a Yonko, who's a joke of a character who can get one-shotted by Shanks, Luffy has the same bounty as him. That just doesn't feel satisfying, and it doesn't make me look forward to, it just makes bounties feel stupid. You know what I mean? They just don't mean anything at a point. It's like, they're not used for hyping the main characters. They're not used for telling us any interesting information, right? It makes bounties feel like an unsatisfying part of the story for me at this point in time, It's like Mihawk comes out with a 3-point-something billion berry bounty. I'm like, that's so cool. And then you're like, well, that's basically the same as fucking kids. It makes Mihawk look less cool because Oda artificially inflated these other two weak characters' bounties, Kid and Law, to make them, just to force this idea of a rivalry or the worst generation being really cool. It's like, Oda could have done that by just making Kid and Law strong. If he actually just made them really strong, right, actually know hockey and shit like that, actually beat a Yonko without using, like, weird Devil Fruit sneak attacks and team-ups and cheese and random explosives and TNT going off in her face and, like, the convenience of being 1,000 feet in the air and her falling in a hole. Like, just make them strong. Why didn't you just make them strong? It makes no sense. Then we'd feel like, damn, like, Luffy's really strong, but he's got these competitors that are right on his level. Instead, it's like, Luffy's really strong, and these other guys are kind of cheesing their way to some victories, and then Oda's telling us that we're supposed to view them as a rivalry, but then we clearly get to certain islands and we see Kid is nowhere near Luffy, and it's just like, I don't know. Christian Braza says, Oda kind of fumbled most of the Supernovas. We weren't asking for all of them to get the Law treatment, at least a showing like Beige. That's what I've always said, which is that Law got a tremendous amount of character work, tremendous amount of character focus, more than someone like Brook, more than like Jinbei. Like, Law is outshining a lot of characters on the Straw Hats in terms of character focus, development, etc. Right? We don't need that for all the Supernovas, but Beige is the bare minimum, right, that we would expect. I mean, not the bare minimum, but Beige kind of sets the standard for what it would be nice to see for a lot of the Supernovas. Apu and Drake were lackluster. Here's hoping Urouge isn't a bum. Yeah, I mean, Bonnie's clearly getting a lot of focus. Quiet Life, thank you. Oda really needs to clarify the Shanks versus Mihawk debate soon. Shanks' portrayal is at such a height, people are assuming Mihawk is stronger than Prime, Whitebeard, and Roger. It's hilarious because it's just like, dude, I can get behind. Mihawk is not stronger than Prime, Roger, and Whitebeard. It's just insanity to think that, right? It's there's nothing in the story that is ever, characters don't talk or speak or hype up Mihawk in that sense. All of his hype comes from basically being compared to Shanks, right? That's where his hype comes from, but characters don't treat him like, holy shit, Whitebeard just walked through the door, right? That, holy shit, Gold Roger just walked. Those characters are treated like gods by all other pirates. They're talked about, spoken about, put on a certain pedestal. Mihawk is very, very strong, and we can assume that Mihawk would do to Kid what Shanks just did to Kid, right? But it's just... we don't know everything Shanks can do just yet. I don't personally think Shanks is as strong as Prime, Roger, and Whitebeard. But Mihawk is definitely not as strong as Prime, Roger, and Whitebeard. I'm sorry, that's just fucking insane. You think Zoro at the end of the story is going to be stronger than Prime Whitebeard? Right? That's fucking insane. In 100 chapters, Zoro's going to be stronger than Prime Whitebeard. Forget Marineford Whitebeard, who had the entire world government shitting their pants, who, like, was knocking a guy out with, like, 2 hits and stuff like that. Although he got up. You guys know what I'm talking about, right? Like, that Whitebeard that was literally shaking the island, shaking the world. You think Zoro's going to be stronger than the Prime version of that in, like, 150 chapters? That's insane. Come on now. I do think that Mihawk could be stronger than Shanks, but in that case, they're both going to be, like, below Roger and Whitebeard, right? Now, if we find out that Shanks has a lot that he hasn't shown us, that's not sword-related, and maybe Shanks is supposed to be on that level of Prime, Roger, and Whitebeard, then that doesn't mean that Mihawk's automatically above them, right? Like, there's just no universe where Mihawk's going to be the strongest character in the history of pirates. Like, you're saying Mihawk is the strongest character in the history of pirates. Nobody is. That's fucking insane. And it's just, I don't, there's no response to those sort of people, because they've just, that means that you only think of the story in terms of Zoro. You literally think it's Zoro piece, basically. You think that what happened in chapter 50 is basically, we met the most important and strongest pirate in history, greater than that dude we met in chapter 1, we heard about in chapter 1, Gold Roger and stuff like that, greater than this dude Whitebeard that everyone is hyping to shit and everyone is talking about like he's the king of the seas and stuff like that, right? No, it was Mihawk all along, and Mihawk is just for Zoro because Zoro's that special, and the story's just about Zoro, and Zoro's gonna beat the strongest pirate of all time, not Luffy. Jesus Christ, dude. Umair Lula says, Morj, once One Piece is finished, what is next for you in YouTube? Will you cover another manga or many other manga? Please don't hang it up and leave us, Morj. Go check out Manga Morj. It already exists. Go check out Manga Morj. That's the little seed for later on. I mean, it's not a little seed. I think I'm growing it fairly well. There's a Berserk video coming on it soon, and I have 2 more videos planned for it coming right after that one. So go check out Manga Morj. I got other series I'm covering already. GDN says Luffy is going to clown Kizaru with Gear 5th and one-shot him. Admiral fans are about to have it way worse than Kid fans. It's coming. I don't think Luffy's going to clown Kizaru. I think he could clown Kizaru, but I don't think he's going to one-shot him. Luffy right now is not one-shotting... Forget Lucci. Luffy's not even one-shotting Lunarians. Right? I would love to see him pull out the Advanced Conqueror's Haki and get serious, but come on. Rate the Supernova. Okay, let me get through these. I'm almost done, I swear. I've said that a few times, but almost done. Goomba Booma, thanks for being a Yonko tier member for 6 months. In defense of Kid, Devil's Advocate. We like Devil's Advocates. He is the only character to put Shanks in a desperate situation as he hurried to take out Kid ASAP. Okay, who am I kidding? I was about to be like, Goomba Booma, come on now, man. I mean, yeah, he hurried. Because he was about to take out his crew. Is that the bar we're at? He made him hurry? Alright. John678 says, all the law dick riders laughing at us Kid fans better put themselves in suicide watch. He about to be disrespected worse than Kid. I'm waiting for Blackbeard to rock up to Egghead saying rooms. I think that at this point, because Law already didn't do... Blackbeard is not on the level of Shanks. He's just not, right? Blackbeard is not at the level of Shanks. I think a good gauge for where Blackbeard probably is think about this. He ran away from Rayleigh, right? He did not think it was right to fight Rayleigh. He already showed pre-time skip that he does not think he's ready to fight Shanks, right? So post-time skip, is he at that level? I still think no, because we saw him run away from Rayleigh, right? Rayleigh said that Blackbeard would probably beat me now, but that's because I'm old, implying that Rayleigh probably, like, the scaling that we're kind of getting a sense of is that Blackbeard doesn't think he could take on Rayleigh. Rayleigh thinks that his prime self is still probably stronger than Blackbeard, even if his old current self isn't, right? So the scaling we're getting for Blackbeard is probably something like, I don't know, it feels like what we would say is Admiral level, right? I would assume that Blackbeard right now is comparable to maybe Kizaru at Sabaody, right? Similar sort of situation, right? So Rayleigh can make him leave with the reputation that he has of how strong he was in his prime. Blackbeard doesn't know how much Rayleigh has declined. So on both ends, it's kind of the the assumption that basically prime Rayleigh greater than where Blackbeard is right now. And I think most would assume that Shanks right now is at least as strong as Rayleigh was in his prime, if not better. You know, it's a vague... It's hard to say exactly where Shanks scales, but you guys get what I'm saying, right? So I don't think Blackbeard is yet as strong as, you know, Kaido, as strong as Shanks, as strong as Big Mom. He's not in that tier where he's splitting the sky or something like that. And he is... The biggest thing that we ever heard him do, which was what made him gain the title of Yonko, was defeat Marco, right? So that's where... Generally, I don't think we're quite there yet, where we're putting Blackbeard at the same level of strength as those other guys, but he's probably close, right? That being said, Law holding his own against him is very impressive, and it's better than I would say probably Kid would have done. I don't know. It's hard to say, but I don't know. I think at this point there's nothing embarrassing. If we find out Law lost and Blackbeard shows up with him saying room or some shit, I think there's no shame in Law's showing. I think it was still a really good showing. It was better than I expected he would do, for sure. Luz Vasquez says, pin Morjero, pour one out for useless mid. Mr. Crescent says, I've always wondered why Luffy didn't become the most wanted man for punching a celestial dragon. Everyone treats them like gods who will be killed for not obeying. Yeah, the bounty system in One Piece just doesn't... It's not always perfect because Robin's bounty should have always been really high, right? And the biggest... Here's the biggest thing. The biggest bounty inconsistency or just lack of logic that you can point out It's not even Robin, it's Law. Law's bounty should be minimum 5 billion berry. Why? Because he has a fruit that is worth 5 billion berry. His bounty should just say, wanted, 5 billion berry, alive, right? Same as Sanji's after Dressrosa, only alive poster, wanted, 5 billion berry. There is no reason that Law should have anything less than a 5 billion berry bounty. It just does not make sense. Law should have the highest bounty in the entire series. So bounties, you kind of just, you accept it at a certain point, right? Captain Bree-Lion, thank you very much. JWP says Luffy at 3.5, Law and Kid and Law at 2.5 would have been fine. Speaking on, this is the first time that I think very often in One Piece, Luffy's bounty ends up maybe a little higher than it should have been. You know, I think 1.5 out of Whole Cake Island was significantly higher than anyone expected. But once everything was listed out, okay, he's got the Grand Fleet, okay, he took out 2 commanders and everything like that. Okay, 1.5, we can get behind it as the reader. I would say that based on everything Luffy just did, he currently he should have the highest bounty in the story right now. Aside from maybe Dragon, just because of what Dragon's doing. But Luffy right now is probably, even if he's not quite as strong as a Shanks or a Mihawk or something right just yet, he is in their tier, right? Strength-wise, he's in their ballpark, as far as we know. We know that if Luffy met Shanks right now, they would split the sky, right? They're on the same tier, most likely, of strength. We just saw Luffy go, you know, he's comparable to Kaido. He's comparable to Kaido. He's comparable to these OG Yonko like Shanks, Big Mom, right? Even if you don't think he's as strong as Shanks just now, I don't think he's as strong as Shanks just yet. He is close in strength, right? He's at the very least close in strength. He's in their tier, maybe a half step down, maybe 2 steps down, maybe 1 step down, something like that. And then in every other category, Luffy is head and shoulders above any other pirate in One Piece right now. Achievements, right? Took down the entire... If you're looking at objectively what Luffy's done, he took down the Beast Pirates. He and his crew took down a Yonko Empire basically solo, right? All of Kaido's officers were pretty much taken down by Luffy's crew. A little help from the samurai. Those samurai are also Luffy's allies, right? So, yeah, in fact, it is purely Luffy and his crew, right? All of Wano now counts as Luffy's territory. They're putting up their flag, right? So Luffy took down the entire Beast Pirates, right? An entire Yonko crew by himself. No one else has done that. Big Mom didn't do that. Shanks' crew hasn't done that. Whitebeard's crew didn't do that. Like, the Yonko were in a balance for a long time. Luffy single-handedly took down the entire Beast Pirates, right? Him and his allies. When I say single-handedly, you count the allies because they are under Luffy's flag, right? These countries, Wano, Fishman Island, etc., they're under Luffy's flag. They count as him. They count as his victory, right? They're on his side in any war. So Luffy has the biggest achievement, right? Taking down them. He also was a significant part of Big Mom's defeat in that he disrupted her empire initially by himself and took out multiple of her commanders and everything like that. So just in achievements, etc., he's already doing way more than any of the other Yonkos. In terms of resources, he's the closest to One Piece. He has the most road poneglyphs. Shanks just picked up 3. I mean, he just picked up some from Kid, but before this, he wasn't there, right? So Luffy was coming out of Wano. He had the most road poneglyphs, the most achievements. His crew is probably just as strong as any other crew out there. And then on top of that, he has by far the most allies and strength in terms of his combined forces, right? Because he's got Wano, a nation that the world government itself is scared of sending people to because of the strength of the samurai. Like, the 9 Scabbards, at the end of the day, as much as I make fun of them, they're no pushovers, right? They're strong in the grand context of the world, and they're one of the strongest countries in existence. So having the 9 Scabbards on your side, and the entirety of Wano, like, that includes Yamato. That includes so many really, really strong figures, right? All of Wano is on his side. The Fishman people, right? The strongest race, I guess, besides the Giants or whatever, but the Fishman people are on his side, the entire Fishman army, right? He's got so many nations on his side, and then his fleet is so much stronger than Shanks's. There's no reason, if you look objectively at everything Luffy's done, he's 100%, he should have the highest bounty in the world right now. Where he's at right now, it is more impressive than Kaido was at, where we saw Kaido at the peak of his powers, right? Like, the Beast Pirates Empire, if you look at it compared to the full forces of Luffy and his empire, the Beast Pirates are a fucking joke. The only person that, if you look at the entire Beast Pirates, right, we know the Straw Hat Pirates are stronger than the Beast Pirates, plus Luffy's got all these countries on his side, plus he's got a grand fleet, plus Luffy himself is close to Kaido himself in strength, right? So Kaido was the strongest bounty before this. If you look at it objectively, Luffy should have the highest bounty in the world right now, right? There's no reason he shouldn't. The only thing you can knock him for is his individual strength, but even that's not bad. It's basically just short of a Shanks Kaido level, right? But he's basically right there. And then again, in every other category, resume, like what he's done, resources, the poneglyphs and everything, how close you are to One Piece, your allies, your fleets, your numbers, etc. Like if Luffy went to war with his full forces against any other Yonko, it would be a wrap. It would be a joke. If Luffy actually went to war against the Red-Haired Pirates and was like, hey, Wano's coming with me, the Fishman people are coming with me, my Grand Fleet's coming with me, let's fucking bring in Amazon Lily and stuff like that, it's a wrap, right? Like Luffy versus Shanks, Shanks has the edge, but everything else, it's over. They're not going to win, right? So, I don't know. The bounty system, it just doesn't make sense. Yeah, they just fucking picked up Vegapunk. It's just, yeah, a lot of those feats are kind of censored by the world government, obviously, but it's stupid. It's just stupid because it makes for unsatisfying storytelling for me as a reader, because it's just like, for me as a reader, I don't feel excited reading Luffy's new bounty if the bounty is so much lower than what we've just seen him do, because it's kind of, the bounty is the reward that you're getting to see as the reader for what the character has just achieved. And then the reward is a fucking lie. It's just like, why is it like this, you know? It's like 3 bill. Why should we be happy about this, right? All right, let's keep moving along. Where are we at? Okay. Andrew Anderson says Barto's done more to disrupt Shanks than Kid has. That's true. Mr. Crescent says, who's the Levi of One Piece? I think it's Law. Maybe I'm wrong. No, because the Levi of One Piece, like the Levi of Attack on Titan, it's kind of similar to, I guess, the Roy Mustang of Full Metal. It's those you could say personality-wise, I guess, maybe similar. Personality-wise, I'd say similar, but the role they play in the story, it's closer. Levi is closer to that role of big good that I talked about, in that he historically throughout Attack on Titan, anytime there was a figure, it's not quite the same because Attack on Titan is more gritty, more realistic. There's not realistic, but you know what I mean. It's a little more gritty. Characters are ultimately soldiers. They have soldier roles and things like that. But it was basically, if you need a big gun, if things are going to shit and there's a really strong Titan around, right? Be that the female Titan, be that the Beast Titan or something like that, Levi is the guy that you count on to basically step in and basically send them packing, right? Ramitalia says, does Crocodile deserve twice Katakuri's bounty? Let's see how strong Crocodile is right now and what he's been up to in the New World. We don't know right now. Yeah, I don't know. Captain Breline says, Kid and Law 2.25 billion max, Luffy 4.5 billion minimum. I would agree. I mean, I think there's no reason Luffy shouldn't have a 5 billion bounty. Just, again, if you compare, Whitebeard had a 5 billion bounty when he went out. I would take the entire Straw Hat Pirates, Allied Nations, and fleet right now. It's hard to say. It's hard to say because Marco is really strong. Jozu is really strong. They did impressive things against the Admirals. Yeah. That's a tough call. And and Whitebeard clearly had a gigantic armada underneath him. I don't know how the Grand Fleet would ever stack up against that. Like we have no way of scaling it. Plus Whitebeard had the same countries that Luffy theoretically has on his side, like the Fishman Pirates. Whitebeard had them. Yeah, it's tricky. But Luffy should definitely have had a higher bounty than Kaido coming out of Wano, because the only thing Kaido had over him was strength, and even then that's very, very close. If you made Luffy, because again, everybody talks about Kaido was at such low health, he was at such low health. Motherfucker, Luffy was at lower health by the time they got to the end of their fight, right? If you gave Luffy full health from the beginning, Gear 5th, and Kaido full health from the beginning, who knows how that goes. But Luffy, at the moment, we can only, when we're talking about a rematch, right? If we're talking about a rematch, Luffy comes in already having Gear 5th in his arsenal, right? So if you want to talk about who's at lower health, who was at lower health once Luffy finally got to Gear 5th, right? If you're talking about Gear 5th Kaido, Luffy versus Kaido, Gear 5th Luffy was at a lower health bar than Kaido was, right? So if you talk about a rematch, yeah, Gear 5th Luffy versus Kaido, that's still a very fucking close fight, right? You can't use injuries as an excuse for Kaido because Luffy didn't have his strongest, his final power-up. He didn't have his access to his full potential till the end of the fight anyway. And at the end of the fight, he had already been, a bigger chunk of his health bar had been taken out than Kaido's. Luffy technically fucking died. Kaido wasn't at that point, right? The argument I would still give for Kaido over Gear 5th Luffy in a rematch, the only argument I'd give is that Kaido probably has better stamina, so he would outlast Gear 5th Luffy. But we already saw, in terms of raw power, Gear 5th Luffy is stronger than Kaido. In terms of versatility, Gear 5th Luffy, at least is difficult for Kaido to deal with. Like, we already saw it, right? Gear 5th Luffy beat Kaido. The only argument for Kaido is lower health bar. That's actually factually not true. Kaido had a higher health bar than when Luffy started Gear 5th. So the only real argument remaining is stamina, and I would give stamina to Kaido. I think Kaido would beat Luffy even in a rematch just because Kaido would outlast him. But, like, the idea that Kaido had a lower health bar than Gear 5th Luffy is not true. Yamikama says Big Mom has a 4 billion, yet K and L got a combined bounty of 6 billion. Yeah, it's stupid. It's like, it's just stupid. Awesome says Shanks out of the Yonkos has taken more L's. What Yonkos would lose a limb to a fish? Agreed, that's true. Mihawk greater than Roger, greatest swordsman, has to have weight. Okay, I don't agree with that. The black man who laughs says Mihawk said becoming Pirate King would be even harder than surpassing him, so he could be second only to Imu. Mihawk is literally the freest man on the seas. What? So he could be the second? No, it just means it's harder than it's harder than surpassing him. That doesn't mean it's becoming the world's strongest swordsman is the second hardest thing to achieve. It just means that Pirate King is some degree higher difficulty. Mihawk is literally the freest man on the seas. No, he's not, because if he was, then he wouldn't have to join Cross Guild. That's just factually true. We already saw, Mihawk is ultimately, the Marines aren't going to take him down, but it is ultimately, he's hindered in a way, right? If he was truly the freest man, then he would never have had to sign up for the Shichibukai. He would never have had to show up for the Marineford War. He's not the freest man. He still had rules that he had to operate in. He just had great leniency to break those rules. But you think Mihawk wanted to show up to the Marineford War? No, he showed up because ultimately he is supposed to, and that is his job, and he has a deal, and he signed up for that, right? So Mihawk was never the freest man on the seas. If he didn't want to, he just never would have shown up to it. I mean, if he really was the freest, he just never would have shown up to it, right? Then in terms of right now, no, he had to join Cross Guild because while he is very free and can get away with a lot, it is still ultimately a hindrance to be chased all the time by Marines. So he has to take some level of refuge. Mihawk is not the freest man in the seas. Black Lightning says Shanks and Mihawk are stronger than Roger. Oh my god. In story, the new generation will surpass the old. This is not just a straw, it's Whitebeard called a duel by them legendary. No, Whitebeard said he still remembered the sounds of their duel, which means that, yeah, Whitebeard still respects them, but over the course of the conversation, Whitebeard clearly looks down on Shanks and the new generation. Yes, the new generation will surpass the old. That's talking about the fucking Straw Hats generation. Their generation has been called the worst generation of pirates since, in the last 20 years, right? So Shanks, Mihawk, all of these guys have come. They're not the same as the worst generation. It's believed that this generation is the one that will surpass any previous generation, right? Or it's at least the most significant in any time. I mean, I just don't know how you can read One Piece and think that these characters, Roger and Whitebeard, are not... I mean, I just don't even know where to begin, because the number of quotes talking about Roger and Whitebeard as above basically everybody else is just insane. Even fucking Kaido talks about Roger and Whitebeard. Like, everybody talks about Roger and Whitebeard as basically being the gold standard of the sea, and everybody else is basically... for a long time, everybody else was competing for second place. The ocean is filled with silver medalists who fall short of them, right? How many quotes are... I don't even know the multitude of quotes are there. The characters who are considered the strongest. Whitebeard, strongest pirate in the sea. That's what he's introduced as. The only person who ever tied with Roger was Whitebeard, implying that these two are cut above the rest. Highest bounties: Roger, Whitebeard, Rocks. Right? It's just across the board. These characters are talked about as the gold standard, right? Bar none. Shanks is considered impressive nowadays because he's the closest thing we have to Roger in the modern era. To think that he's above Roger, it's just, what is that based on? It's not based on anything, right? And as for Mihawk, Mihawk has not, people, like, I feel like the argument for Shanks, I don't even know what to say. Mihawk is, like, at least Shanks has gotten a lot of hype in the story. Mihawk's only hype is that he is the strongest swordsman, which is a very, he's never talked about in a broader context as being the strongest pirate or the strongest character in the world or anything like that, right? Strongest swordsman is a really big deal, but all of Mihawk's hype is basically, like, by extension. It's like, by extension hype from Shanks. So it's like, well, if you think Shanks is this strong, well, then you could argue that maybe Mihawk is even blah, blah. It's like, motherfucker, focus on the character. Like, if you really want to make an argument for Mihawk, let's look throughout the story at how characters have talked about Mihawk. Has anyone ever talked about Mihawk in general in the light of being the strongest pirate right now or the strongest character right now? And if he's not even there, then forget trying to compare him to be talking about, like, the strongest pirate in history. Like, you think Mihawk is the strongest pirate in history? Stronger than Roger, Whitebeard, and Rocks? No. Come on. JWP says Luffy's territories are kind of OP, lol. Yeah. Luffy's got the best territories for sure. Oh my god. Caleb Brown says, I'm convinced Morj only title streams is clickbait. No, it's just that... Okay, hold on. We're going to speed through... We're going to catch up right here. We're going to go real quick. We're going to catch up right here. Then we're going to do the grading. Takanome says, they will learn the lesson like Luffy did many times. Kid and Killer will come back. We all forgot Odin's prophecy about new generation. C1000. Chapter 1000. Chapter 1000. No, I'm sure that the new... Yeah, this current generation is supposed to be the strongest, but that's not Shanks and Mihawk's generation. Like, keep in mind, Shanks was... Luffy was a little baby when Shanks was having his generation, you know? I do like to believe that Kid and Killer will come back. It's just, what was the point of doing everything with them in the first place in Wano? Bahanort says, is it okay to ask a Chainsaw Man question? Very quickly, yes. If yes, who do you think is more likely to be the final boss of Part 2? Fami or Yoshida or someone we haven't met? I think the Justice Devil is being set up for that. Banfagum says, Morj, what do you think of Vinland right now? Well, 1 second. I just want to see what the last mention of the Justice Devil was. Yeah. Yeah, I think it's just the Justice Devil. It also fits thematically the most. Bunfagum says, Morj, what do you think of Vinland right now? I'm not caught up on Vinland right now. The Baltic Sea War arc really burned me on Vinland. I lost a lot of enthusiasm for it, but I will catch up at some point just because people say the current arc is good. Bear Sheriff says, I recently started getting into fantasy novels, some of the best magic / world building I've seen. Do you read books? I haven't read books in like book books in like a long time, like fantasy stuff. But I did want to get into Brandon Sanderson's world soon. There's just only so much time. Jaquan Butler says, do you think Kid was built up just to be a sacrificial lion? I feel like Oda was trying to build him up as a legitimate power to make what happened to him hit harder, but he kind of fumbled. Dude, you will really, really like tomorrow's video. Tomorrow's video goes into that very, very in-depth as to why that feeling is for a lot of readers, as well as maybe if this is the end of the story or the potential of it not being the end of the story. So I'd say just wait for that video, but that's a good question. Name says, without Volcano, Kaido gets back up. Maybe. Luz Vasquez says, if Kaido had a lunch break, the raid would have failed. Wertio Man says, Luffy will surpass Gold Roger and Zoro will surpass Rayleigh and Mihawk. I love that. I agree with that. I think that makes the most sense, right? But to say that everybody right now has already surpassed everybody from back then, like, I think the simplest way to put it is that everyone still talks about Garp as being the strongest, the greatest Marine in history, right? Not Akainu, right? Akainu doesn't really have, people don't talk about him like that. Fucking Rayleigh showed up, old, past his prime, withered, aged up, dried up Rayleigh. He showed up, and Blackbeard ran away, right? That's not Roger, that's not Rocks, that's not Whitebeard, that's Roger's subordinate. And Blackbeard right now, a Yonko right now, in his prime basically, ran away, right? The current generation is not and has never been implied to be at the level of that legendary era just yet. most likely Luffy, Blackbeard, Zoro will get there out of the notable worst generation members today. But to say that Shanks and Mihawk are already there, it's just not based on anything. Mahana T.O., thank you. Okay, it's time to start grading these supernovas. All right. The one thing that that these characters, Shanks, Mihawk, etc., have today over Roger and Whitebeard, I will say, is that they've got more fans, and that's the biggest problem. Which is that obviously Shanks and Mihawk are prominent characters in today's story. Roger and Whitebeard are dudes that, Roger we barely seen any of. Whitebeard, he was great, but he was during Marineford. It was a long while back. Shanks and Mihawk, that's the current stuff. They have fans. And so naturally fans are just going to argue, you know what? I think Shanks is stronger than Roger. Why? Just because. Just because the new generation will surpass the old. It's like, motherfucker, it's talking about the fucking worst generation. It's been very, very, very clear about that. There's a singular generation that has stood out as the best generation of pirates in the last 20 years. So not even the best generation of pirates ever. It's saying this is the first time in the last 20 years that we've had pirates like this. I mean, you even have characters specifically saying, like, you have Chinja talking about, look, there's nobody in the seas right now that is comparable to the likes of Roger and Whitebeard. There's nobody like that. That era was special. The only one who maybe has the potential is Blackbeard. Doflamingo's speech makes it very clear as well. Roger was number one. Roger supplanted him after, or Whitebeard supplanted him after that. Since then, it's just been a big fucking question mark because no one has really stood out from the crowd like that since then. Who's gonna do it? Maybe it's Luffy, maybe it's Blackbeard, but that's the crux of the story right now. This is not some world where Roger and Mihawk just pass those guys up casually and just nobody knows about it and nobody cares. And we've just been living in a world where the strongest pirate in history was Hawkeye's Mihawk. What the fuck? Anuj Agarwal says the only one you could argue about for Roger / Whitebeard is Rocks. Yeah, that is the only one so far. Again, end of story will be different. But right now, yeah. Mahana T.O., thank you. Black Man Who Laughs says, Pirate King Roger was executed. No one expected him to be at Marineford. It was his own decision. He just wanted front row seat. Freedom doesn't mean no opposition. No, but Roger didn't have to be, he was executed because he gave himself in. I don't know what to say. And you're saying, okay, no one expected Mihawk to be at Marineford. It was his own decision. He just wanted his front row seat. Freedom doesn't mean no opposition. But that's just headcanon. He just wanted a front row seat. If that's the case, then why did he leave once Shanks showed up, right? If he really, he clearly showed up because he felt some obligation to deal with the Whitebeard pirates, but once Shanks showed up, he pulled out a technicality, which is, I technically didn't sign up to fight the Shanks pirates, so I'm leaving, right? He still showed up, right? Freedom doesn't mean no opposition. That's true. I'm not saying Mihawk's not free. I'm just saying he's not the freest, right? There are characters who can literally do anything they want in the One Piece world. Those are guys like, as far as we've seen, Shanks is the freest character in One Piece in that he can walk into Marijua. He can show up at the war and say the entire war is over. He can do things like that nobody else really can, right? He can go to Kaido and say, hey, you're not going after Whitebeard. Shanks, as far as we've seen, is the character who has never faced any friction whatsoever in terms of what he wants to do and has always gotten what he wants. Tulunga96 says Ryuma has more in-story hype than Mihawk. Yeah. I mean, Ryuma obviously is going to be stronger than Mihawk, just because, Ryuma is literally, he's the god of the blade, right? He made the entire world government scared of Wano forever. And the simplest argument for Ryuma being stronger than Mihawk is that we know Ryuma is Zoro. Ryuma is literally Zoro. Zoro endgame is stronger than Mihawk. We already know that's going to be true. So by that logic, Ryuma is stronger than Mihawk, right? It's just basically saying what's stronger, Prime Zoro or Mihawk. We already know that one. No matter how much you love Mihawk, Prime Zoro is going to be stronger than Mihawk. Ryuma is Prime Zoro. You have to understand, Ryuma is literally a main character in that Oda wrote him as a main character in the series Wanted, or in the series of one-shots. It was something like that. Wanted, basically, right? Or Monsters, right? Ryuma is already a character. Like, he's a main character. He was the king of swordsmen in the era long back. He was basically Zoro if Zoro is the main character of his own manga, right? That's going to be stronger than Mihawk. Reflexy says, do you think Usopp and Nami can jump from bottom tier to top tier, world-changing endgame characters in only one saga, unlike Sanji and Zoro who progressed? I think Nami's always such a... she's always got so much potential in terms of what she can do as a glass cannon, that maybe not in a 1v1 fight, but definitely in terms of, like, what Oda could spin her, like, who Oda could spin her winning against, you know what I mean? Alright, let me start pulling up this Microsoft Paint stuff. Remix King, thanks for being a Yonko to your member for 2 months. Hey Morj, I broke my toe, so I won't be as active today. What? Did you answer my question from last week about protags, starters, and their rankings? Yes, I did. Yes, I did. No, you gotta go check that one out. You gotta go check that one out because I gave a very good, detailed answer there that I can't recall quite off the top of my head at the moment. But go check out the last stream. It was a very, very, very good, very articulate answer. Very well thought out. Virgil Hawkins says, why Justice Devil plus would you make a review channel? Review channel for Chainsaw Man chapters. Right now it's gonna be more in-depth videos on manga, but there'll be more Chainsaw Man videos there. Justice Devil fits the themes of the story the best, and yeah, fits the themes of the story the best. It fits what, because you can kind of look at the one. She's been the overarching antagonist so far. She hasn't been caught yet, right? As far as we've seen, and she played a role in the first chapter, right? She played a role in the very next arc as being a part of what was causing trouble, etc. And then the biggest thing is that basically, not just fitting the themes of the arc, but also what the main character seems to be struggling against the most. So for Denji, Makima as the Control Devil made the most sense. For Asa, the Justice Devil makes the most sense. And I think it also makes sense for the direction that both characters are headed this arc, both Asa and Denji. We'll talk about that later in a better, more established video for Chainsaw Man on that channel. Awesome says, you consider Mihawk a pirate? He's just the best. He's factually a pirate. I don't know what to say. He's a pirate. Christian Braza says, what are the odds of Fujimoto actually canonizing the Balls Devil? All men fear getting hurt in the balls. In my opinion, it's a primal fear law. I mean, that would just be the Pain Devil. Nerve AMV Maker says, I always got the feeling the reason Mihawk is so bored is because he was never able to test his strength against someone like a Prime Relay. At least you're saying I mean, he probably was against Shanks, right? He got a good duel against Shanks, I assume. But yeah, nowadays he's got no one, right? Because he wants a sword fight. No one can really beat him in a sword fight. He's there. Black Flash says, if you could replace Kid with another Supernova and Wano, who would you choose? The thing is that, like with a good story, I mean, because initially I would have been like, I would love to see more of Hawkins. I think Hawkins is a cool character concept. But now that we know Hawkins sucks, I'm just like, what would we replace? Replacing Kid with Hawkins is kind of shitty, right? All right, let's rate these guys. Okay, who do we have? We've got Kid. We got Kid. We got Killer. We got Law. Fuck. We got Urouge. Let's put Urouge over here. We got... I'm not going to do the Straw Hats, right? It would be unfair. We got Bonnie, Beige. Marty McFly. Party McFly? Great name. Beige. We got Pooh, Hawkins, and Drake. All right. So we're finally getting to this part, which means we should finally get the stream likes to 600. This is a good time to get the stream likes to 600. All right. Remix King says, great. Next question. What was Gold's best battle? Gold's best battle, in my opinion, was Gold. Well, Gold naturally, he, you know what? I think it was the fist fight. I really enjoyed the fact that Gold was very anti-Pokemon, which is a rare thing to see from Pokemon manga. He generally did not like forcing animals to fight his battles for him. You know, so I enjoyed the fact that he mostly just relied on his raw fists. Is that correct? I went really out on a limb there, but I feel like that has potential to be true. These columns are too small. Fuck. These teeny tiny columns. I'm not going to be able to put any notes in them. Okay, you know what? Let's just grade it like this, right? So we want an overall grade. Forget notes. We don't need notes. Sun says, aside from Luffy / Blackbeard, who will get to Pirate King / who will get to the Pirate King level, basically. I mean, I don't know if it's a whole separate tier is the thing, right? Like, I don't know if it's a whole separate... I don't know if Roger and Whitebeard are a full tier or whatever above Shanks, Kaido, Mihawk, etc. I don't know if they're, just a huge tier jump above. That's hard to say. But at the same time, I think it's entirely possible just because old Whitebeard was clearly still in the Yonko tier, right? You know, you might think he's the weakest of the Yonko, but he's still clearly in the Yonko tier. So Prime Whitebeard, does that just move him to the top of this tier or put him in a tier above? That's the tricky thing, right? So to me, it's like... I just don't know. I don't know if they're in a whole different tier than everybody else, or if they're just, you know, the strongest in the highest tier of characters. That's the tricky thing. Because you could argue that Shanks is in the same tier as they are or whatever. It's just that they're strong. Like, Roger would be 1, Whitebeard's 2, Shanks is 3. I don't know. Just use Excel? No. I prefer this. This is better. It's more visually bad, you know? But that's what makes it more entertaining to look at. Excel, you feel like you're looking at someone doing their taxes, you know? So this is where... Okay, hold on. No, you guys don't get it. Final grade. Final grade goes here. This is where the final grade goes. So now we just got to think of categories, which I should have thought of before the stream started, but I didn't. Shit. What categories were we... Okay, you know what? No, this is too... Okay. No. I'm just going to put notes here, and then they'll get their final grade here. So this stuff will be for notes, okay? MJ Vigor says old Whitebeard is too weak. I don't know. I don't think so. Party McFly says it's more painful to the eye. No, but Excel is just... I don't know. It's just... looks boring, right? Look at this. Can you do this in Excel? Wait, I didn't do anything. Can you do this? No, right? We've only got grids and boring shit. Okay, let me go to the bathroom real quick. Then we're gonna figure out how we actually rank this shit. Okay. Oh, let's get the stream likes to 600. We're basically there. Anonymous247N says he can literally take notes on a sticky note and use tier lists. No, trust me. You'll like this a lot better. Riri says, I can't believe Morj slipped down the stairs and got queened. Oh my god, don't even... It's a terrible thing to joke about. JWP says, Morj only knows how to use paint stocks going up. Is that like a belief? I know how to use Excel. Fuck off. I use Excel for plenty of things. Also, I'm pretty confident Oda forgot about Urouge. Shit, there's a possibility that's the case. Okay. Ahmed Boo says, Morj 5 feet 3. Oh, man. I wish I run into some of you guys at like a con or something like that. I feel like you guys are really short across the board, and I would tower over you guys, but there's no way to prove it. Felix, he says, Morj, my eyes are not thankful. Oh yeah, here's the best part about Microsoft Paint. There's no dark mode as far as I know. There's only light mode, and I prefer light mode. Okay. So, what do we, okay. I had an idea for this. No, I can't think of good categories. We're just going to do notes. Notes are easier. All right. So, Kid, the simple... Wait, am I stupid? Yeah. Oh, my God. I hate those moments when you realize you're an idiot. All right. Final grade is supposed to go like here, right? Like this. Okay. That's close enough. No, it's not. This is close enough. Okay. So this is where the final grade will go. Alright, so Kid, we're going to give a... Okay. So these boxes up here are for the notes. And everything down below is for... This is where the grade goes. Alright, so Kid's grade is pretty simply... Now, you guys might want me to give Kid an F, like the thumbnail. But it's not. Kid gets a D. Alright? Kid gets a D. Here's why. Because at the end of the day, Kid is the second most accomplished... He's the second most accomplished Supernova, correct? He's the second most accomplished Supernova, right? Why is this not increasing? Yeah, Kid is the second most accomplished Supernova. I don't think he fails, right? That's the thing. Maybe he should get a C. ZZ Gundam just asked Dark Souls, Sekiro, Morj. I'm just going to respond to that real quick because I'm excited somebody asked. I do have Dark Souls 3 now above Dark Souls 1. I just beat the Nameless King. Best fight in this, like, best moment in Dark Souls, fighting the Nameless King. Like, across both games, Dark Souls 1 and 3. I keep forgetting this is 3 and not the sequel technically. But best moment in the series. And honestly, Ishin is a better fight, but Nameless King is more epic. It's tricky. But anyway. Okay. I have Dark Souls 3 above Dark Souls 1. I haven't done the DLCs yet. I also will probably maybe revise my opinion after I give it some time. This might be recency bias. Like, I just came off the best moment in the entire, like, out of the two games, right? Dark Souls 1 and 3. I just finished the best moment in both those games, which was Nameless King, so maybe I'm just recency biasing it. But I've got some explaining to do for why my opinion changed overall. It's a lot more than just that. Anyway. I know Jargo Wall says, are we grading against expectation or level field? That's the thing. That's why Kid gets a D. I actually want to give him a C. I'm going to give him a C. People are saying C. And yeah, that's part of the thing, which is that it's not it's not fair to do. Okay, because if we did it purely on level field, right? Then Kid would honestly he'd be a, and not counting Luffy, right? Because Luffy throws the whole score. Kid would be an A. Killer would be like an A- or a B, probably. Urouge would be an A-. Law would be an A+. Bonnie would be God knows what, like a fucking D or something. She hasn't done anything. Beige would be a solid B+ or something. Apu, Hawkins, and Drake, they would all get passing grades. Yeah, Kid would have an A if it was level playing field, because at the end of the day, he hit a 3 billion berry bounty, right? and he helped take out a Yonko. That's a big deal. But we're not doing that, right? We're going to grade them based on expectations. Let's assume it's a weighted score. Actually, no. Let me let you guys pick. Is it fair to do that or not? Felix C says, how would you feel if kids' new role in the story is to show the value in knowing when to know when your dream is unachievable, and that's okay? I think if something really interesting is done with kids' character that's outside the scope of what any of us are really expecting, then that would be great. Like, that's a very interesting angle to bring into the story, I think. Right? Yeah. Everyone same standards or based on expectations. I think those are two different things. I think we could just make this, we could just do 2 rows, right? So this one would be top one could be same standards, bottom one could be expectations. We could split it up. Okay. Seems like expectations is winning. Right? Seems close. Maybe they'll just split it. Mahana Tio says, Mr. Lord's great stream. Like the stream, y'all. I agree. Wrench Dodger 2000 says, as a pirate, Kid is quite accomplished. As a character, he's the most disappointing in my opinion. Yeah, that's the thing, because we forget, right? In the grand scheme of One Piece, Kid has already made his name as a... Maybe legendary is not quite the right word, but he will forever be remembered as a great pirate, right? He has officially become that, right? Because pirates that reach this level, the tippy top level we're talking about, right? Rocks, Roger, Whitebeard, Kaido, Big Mom, Shanks, Mihawk, right? Those pirates, they come around very, very rarely. Across the last 40 years, I named 7 names, right? Kid is already going to go down as a more notorious pirate than probably several Shichibukai that we've already seen, yeah, he's one of the greater pirates in One Piece history. It's just that that's not the standard that we were expecting of him, which was we were expecting basically a rival to the greatest pirate of all time, which is Luffy, right? Yeah, Mason Hack says, compared to Luffy, all the Supernova are F. That's the thing, which is, I mean, if you want to do compare to Luffy, basically all the Supernova would be F, Law would be like a C. That's basically where we're at. So we're not going to do to Luffy. So we're going to do 2 grades, right? We're going to do 2 grades. This one is going to be level playing field. We don't need the parentheses. Yeah, this will be level playing field towards the bottom. Yeah, level playing field around here. Sorry, there's just no room. It's just the way it is. And this is expectations. I think expectations is just the more fun one, right? Okay. Level playing field, blah, 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 expectations. Sorry, it looks uneven. You know what? It's just the way it is. Alright. Maybe we should have done Excel. Kid, expectations-wise, that's the thing. Expectations-wise, I'm going to put him in a D. Right? I'm not going to give him a failing grade, because it's not like we got nothing. No, a red is going to be a failing grade. It's not like we got nothing, right? It was... Kid, I would say, over the course of One Piece in the New World, he verged on the edge of greatness or potential many times. You remember when the New World opened, and it was mentioned that, Luffy takes his shot against Big Mom. He's talking shit to Big Mom on the Den Den Mushi. And then we find out something interesting, which is that Luffy's not the first upstart rookie to take shots at Big Mom. Big Mom just had some of her ships sunk, right? She just had some of her ships sunk, and she was in dire need of some extra cash flow because Captain Kidd was, wreaking havoc in the New World. That's pretty cool. That's the first news we hear about any of the supernovas in the New World. I think it's one of the first things we hear about the activity in the New World in general. It just sounds cool. It's like that rival that we got hyped up pre-time skip. He's already causing trouble for the Yonko before Luffy even gets to them, right? And then in Punk Hazard, Law's offering Luffy a team up and everything, and it's like, damn, that's pretty cool. We got a pirate alliance. On the other side of the sea, we got another pirate alliance between the Supernova being formed, and Kid's the one that's the mastermind behind this, right? So we're still getting that sense of two rivaling trajectories, I suppose, between Kid and Luffy. Not to mention, Kid has a higher bounty. He's got a pretty good bounty, I think, coming out of the New World and everything like that. I forget exactly what it was, but it was a good bounty. Might have been the highest bounty of the Supernovas at the start of the New World, unless I'm mistaken. I think he had the highest. So it's not that Kid was doing nothing. And then even beginning of Act 2 of Wano, we're finding out, first of all, he's being portrayed as competitive with Luffy. We find out that he took out a Sweet Commander. It's not like he did nothing, right? And then lastly, it's just he did help take out a Yonko, right? No matter how you spin it. But the expectations of Kid, right? And these aren't reader-based expectations, right? This isn't just like... There's no argument whatsoever that the readers had the wrong expectations for Kid, because we didn't have any of these sort of expectations for fucking Beige, for fucking Apu, for fucking Hawkins, for fucking Drake, even for Law. Kid was the one that everybody saw was clearly being focused on and harped on over and over as being very similar to Luffy, same attitude, higher bounty, similar crew construction with a prominent first mate, similar drive, ambition, similar approach to becoming Pirate King, regularly showing being very competitive with him, down to the double panel of Luffy and Kid both doing a combo attack pre-time skip with giant arms and everything like that. Everything beat for beat that Luffy was doing, it was kind of shown that Kid's this counterpart to him. He talked the most shit. He talked the biggest game. He was given the most attention early on. Again, who do we find out is fucking up Big Mom's shit early on? It's Kid. Who's forming the counter rival alliance to Luffy? It's Kid. Who's gunning for Shanks while Luffy's gunning for Kaido? It's Kid. Who's competing with who and being shown as equals early on in Udon? It's Kid. There is no argument that Kid's expectations are based on just readers coming up with random conjecture. And this is, again, why I hate the argument that, like, any criticism you have of One Piece is based on wrong expectations. It's like, okay, fucking explain to me then why we only viewed Kid in this light and not Urouge. Fucking explain why so much focus was put on Kid and not any of these other characters. It's just random, arbitrary storytelling if clearly this character is being focused on again and again, harped on again and again, built up and given space in the reader's mind and in the story again and again for nothing to happen to them, right? So ultimately, it's not that Kid did nothing, but in terms of what he was portrayed or meant to be shaped towards, the type of role he was being seemingly shaped towards taking up, he's a D, right? He's a D, and not like the cool D, like, Luffy, Monkey D. Luffy. He's not from the Will of D, the D tribe. He gets a D, right? So Kid's got a D. If we're talking level playing field, we'll run through that later. Killer, I would argue, is an A. Why is that red? Killer, I think, is an A. What do you guys think about that? I think Killer's an A. I think he's actually pretty impressive. Considering, I think pre-time skip, he just didn't seem that impressive. He had no devil fruit ability like the rest of them. His fighting style seemed very basic. It almost seemed fodderish, at least to me. Level playing field Kid honestly has an A, right? We're not counting Luffy, so, it's a little different. But level playing field Kid's an A. He got to a 3 billion berry bounty. He's tied for the third most prominent pirate in the world, basically, right? In terms of bounty. Kid's an A. Like, let's just set the standard here. Kid's an A, Law's an A+, if we're talking level playing field. Yeah, I don't think anyone expected that much of Killer, and I think just we're not really talking about character here, but I think it is nice that Killer got some character work done from Wano more than Kid did. Killer took out Hawkins. So think about that. Who would have expected pre-time skip that Killer, who seemed like the most basic fighter, who was a subordinate to everything like that, would take out Hawkins, who was the third most wanted Supernova, right? He had the only 3 bounties that were really shockingly high, I felt like, pre-time skip among the Supernovas. It was obviously Luffy, Kid's because it was higher, and then Hawkins was 250, which was still really, really impressive. And Hawkins' ability was very, very, it was the most interesting out of the Supernovas early on, I think. Right? So Hawkins seemed like he had so much potential. Killer beat Hawkins while handicapped, and Killer damaged Kaido. Something that not even his fucking captain could do, which is so embarrassing. You know how crazy embarrassing it is for Kid that he was furious about what Kaido did, what happened to Killer. He sails to Onigashima. There's literally a line saying, we're gonna be the ones to take out Kaido. I'm gonna get revenge on Kaido. That's what he's talking about the entire time. He wants to get revenge on behalf of Killer, at the very least, partly, right? Even though Orochi technically did it, Kid's directing his anger and his malice towards Kaido for what Kaido's done to him and his crew. In the end, Kid doesn't do anything to Kaido. Killer steps up and is actually able to damage Kaido. Absolutely insane. Oh, is it Bonnie? Fuck. Row one over. Bonnie, if we're doing this, level playing field wise, Bonnie's an F, right? I don't think she's even remembered that she's supposed to be a pirate. She's not really a pirate, is she? Where's her crew? Where is everybody? What happened to them? What's she doing? Law is an A+. What happened to her crew? Are they all just dead? Bonnie is an F. I think she's given up on the pirate. Was she ever even contention for One Piece? I don't know what she's doing. Blaze, welcome to the Yonko. Yeah, I'm going to give Killer an A because he exceeded expectations, for sure. Can I move it? I don't know how to get the text boxes again once I've lost them. I don't because this isn't the text box for the same thing. You see? Microsoft Paint isn't very good. I don't know how to use it well. Okay, we shouldn't go all over the place, right? We're going across the board. Expectations, Urouge A+. Who thought that Urouge would take out... Because Urouge had the lowest expectations by far, if any, of the pre-time skip Supernovas. I think multitude of reasons. One, the lowest bounty. His bounty wasn't even as high as Zoro's. That's not a knock on Zoro. It's just that, Zoro's a subordinate. He's not a captain, right? So he's not going to get the same reputation. Urouge had the lowest bounty. Urouge barely squeaked in to the Supernova. Let's not forget that, right? If Urouge had maybe, I don't know, skipped one island or done a few less things or whatever, he's not even being talked about in the Supernova, right? So he barely made the club, and is the first Supernova that is established to take out a commander, right? So in terms of expectations, lowest expectations to one of the highest feats, I think Urouge is an A+, right? How do you say it? Urouge? Who cares? Ryuichi says Bonnie's crew was killed by Blackbeard. Wait, you're right. Yeah, you're right. They were probably just killed by Blackbeard, right? They were probably just killed by Blackbeard. Party McFly says, I think Beige had the lowest expectations early on, personally. Actually, yeah, Beige might have had the lowest, because Beige was almost never... I was least excited for Beige. He never showed any sort of combat ability, and I thought that his fighting style was very gimmicky. It's just relying on other people. Ranking Beige will be difficult, because his grade should be very high. Should it be higher than Urouge? Urouge? Why is it not Urouge? Urouge. I feel like I'm pronouncing it basically correct. Urouge seems wrong. You know? This is hard. Caleb says, Mr. Morj is spittin'. I'm going to assume that he means my pronunciation of Urouge. No, I'm going back to saying Urouge. Why is it Urouge? Urouge. Why is it Urouge? It doesn't make any sense. Where's the... we're gonna say it my way, right? My stream will say it my way. Law, I think, obviously A+. I never thought that Law would be all the way to now, I thought that maybe Oda would continue playing up the rival bit a little bit, right? I was surprised to see Law the same bounty as Luffy coming out of Dressrosa. But all the way to now, Law still got the same bounty as Luffy? Did I expect Law to be fighting against Yonko Blackbeard and not immediately folding? No. Yeah, I think compared to... Because Law had decently high expectations, but Law definitely... I don't think people had him going... At the very least, he's lived up to his expectations, right? And probably surpassed them a little bit, right? There's no S. This is a report card. You fucking anime nerds, you think that kids at school are... Are you kids at school just being like, how far does this carry over in your lives? Huh? Are you kids at school basically complaining to your teachers like, can I get an S on my report card? Was this an S-class essay? What are you saying? You guys know how grades work, right? I'm a pirate. Welcome to the Yonko. Thank you for joining the Yonko. You're considering your name, we're happy to have more pirates and everything in there. Yeah, I think Law lived up to expectations, right? Wrench Dodger 2000 says Law went from 400 mil to 3 bill in one jump, right? Yeah, dude, I'm done ranting about bounties, but it's just like Luffy's 500 mil to 1.5 bill was considered an insane jump by most people, right? Everybody was like, that's crazy, that seems too high, but we kind of got over it and we were like, okay, it makes sense once you list out everything Luffy did. 400 mil to 3 bill is it's twice as big of it's like, yeah, Luffy did a 3x jump. Law's is more than a 6x jump, right? It's more than a 7. It's so stupidly big. 8 times his bounty, right into the category of basically he just became the 3rd most wanted person in the world off of doing basically nothing. I've ranted about it so much, but it's so stupid. It's just so stupid. He really did not have to work for it, right? Beat nobody strong 1v1 ever, right? Losing to Doflamingo, that was his biggest thing that he did before this. Has no fleet, has no strong crew, has no allied forces, has nothing. He himself, his fighting ability is strong, but it's, I think it's not that, like, look at Mihawk. Mihawk is getting a bounty purely based off his fighting ability, and Law's bounty is almost as strong as Mihawk's. That's insane. Mihawk would destroy, you guys get what I'm saying? Like, what is Law's bounty based off of? The one thing I can give him is that he was ultimately probably the mastermind of everything that happened in Wano, to a degree. I think past a certain point we can't give just Law credit because you have to give Kinemon just as much, if not more credit, but, Law was strategically a big part of it. He kind of got the ball rolling from back at Bunk Hazard, so I see the argument from that, but it's just, at that point, though, then you look at Kid, and it's like, well, Kid's really makes no sense, right? It's just the biggest lie. The bounties that they have are so absurd. I think that there's just no way to even... There's no comparison. It just doesn't make any sense. There's no bounties in the entire series that are as absurdly inflated and nonsensical as those two. It basically throws off the entire bounty system, in my opinion. The only other reverse I can think is, Robin having an absurdly low bounty. Law himself, actually, I forgot about this. The Ope Ope no Mi, but the world government never references that. He should have a 5 billion berry bounty or like a 1 billion berry bounty right now. There's no in between. That's basically where his range is at, in my plan. 5 billion for the Ope, or 1 billion for basically kind of considering his actual level of what he's done in this world, That's it. Tyler Johan says Zoro and Sanji got robbed, 1.5 billion berry bounty minimum. Yeah, the bounties across the board for the Strats were disappointing. Because it's so stupid. It's just, they're so low just to gas up other characters that it's just to gas up other characters. Anyway, all right. Law still, I'm giving an A+ based on he certainly lived up to expectations, right? If not surpassed them, right? Bonnie, I don't think we had I think she just gets a solid C, right? Because the fact that she's still alive and kicking in the New World, after we saw her basically get wrecked day 1. Last we saw her, she got captured by the by the Marines. So the fact that she's still around, she gets a C. Okay, Beige is a tricky one. Beige ultimately did not do that much, but he did do way more than we expected. He was an integral part in messing up a Yonko's empire. I think he was a bit premature. He rolled away from, the whole Tea Party incident happened. Beige rolls away. He was like, ah ha ha, this is a successful plan. The entire Big Mom Pirates will soon collapse because of this. They did collapse, but not necessarily because of what Beige and Luffy, not because of what Beige did, right? This triggered Big Mom into going to Wano to chase after Luffy, where she got in over her head and she got fucked up, right? But Beige did do quite a bit in Whole Cake Island strategically. I would say he was a big part in helping facilitate the collapse of Yonko Empire, and just the fact that he had no expectations. Okay, do you guys think, because I'm giving Urouge an A+, and I'm giving Law an A+, do you think Beige deserves an A+, an A, or an A-? Morio Anime says, what was the point in Kid getting Conqueror's Haki? I mean, maybe he's still a character. What grade for Beige? Oh, you guys, okay, everyone, okay, I'm just going to say A-, B+. I guess A+ is out of the question. B. I'm not putting him below a B-. I think even a B is pushing it. I think B+ would be good. B+, A-, or A. I'm comfortable giving many of those. Damn, it's really split. Really, this is actually really difficult. I don't know if you guys are seeing this. It's almost about... Shit, this is really hard. So the way I'm looking at it, about 50%, literally 50% of people say he should be voted an A or A-. 50% of people say he should be voted a B+ or a B. And B+ is just about edging it at this point. If you add up all the percents, yeah, it looks like... It's really tight, though. I'm going to give this one a few seconds. That's really tight. I think people just have very... Because quantifying what Beige has done is very difficult. I think a lot of it depends on how low your expectations were. Like, do you think it's cooler that Beige came in and helped pull off this plot that really created a lot of trouble for the Big Mom Pirates? Or do you think it's cooler that, Urouge came in, seemed like maybe the weakest or one of the weakest Supernova, lowest bounty, and came in and took out a Sweet Commander? I think more people are immediately drawn to stuff like that. It looks like B+ is taking... Okay, I'll give Beige a B+. But look, I'll just say this. If Beige is getting a B+, then Lord help what the grades are going to be for these other Yonko. I mean, not these other Yonko, Supernova. This is about to get ugly. I'm going to leave Apu for the moment. Hawkins. I had insanely high expectations for Hawkins. I don't know if other people did, but Hawkins, I was always just really drawn to his ability, right? The fact that he had the third highest bounty out of the Supernovas. Third highest bounty, had, in my opinion, the most interesting ability. And I felt like there was a difference in how Hawkins... I personally felt like there was a difference in how Hawkins was portrayed compared to the other Supernovas during the Kizaru incident at Sabaody. I felt like at Sabaody, everybody else was shitting their pants. The other Supernovas, they did their best to stand up to Kizaru and the Pacifista, but they were clearly very scared and worried about him, and they knew they were basically fucked. Hawkins still comes off pretty cold and pretty badass over the course of that scene. Kizaru literally walks up to him. Hawkins doesn't move. He just keeps fucking with his cards and stuff like that. And the entire scene, Hawkins speaks to Kizaru basically like they're equals. Basically, he shows no fear, no hesitation. And obviously, you might say, oh, well, that's because he's got his bodies to protect him and stuff. But he really trusts. He says, I see 0% chance of mark of death on me today. You're not killing me today. I'm going to be fine. And he comes across really, really impressive to me over the course of that whole Kizaru situation, because he's the only one of them that's never truly intimidated. Towards the very end, when Kizaru's about to finish him off, he does seem to show some fear. But I just did think it was interesting that, we're getting the Luffy Kid Law scene on one side, but then we're getting the other combat-based Supernova on the other side, right? Hawkins, X-Drake, Urouge, uh, Apu, right? We're getting them all over here. And that whole sequence starts with Kizaru confronting Hawkins, then these other guys interfere, but it finally concludes with Kizaru finally getting back to Hawkins. So it feels like Hawkins just felt like the most, to me, right, when I watched that scene, read that scene, it felt like Hawkins was essentially portrayed as the most prominent of those other Supernova outside of the Luffy Kid Law Trio. So I'm going to go ahead and give Hawkins an F, because this is by far the most embarrassing Supernova to me. Right? It's just, he's just playing with these cards and making these vague predictions, none of which ever seem to come true, or he could just be saying gibberish for all we know. The gimmick seemed really cool initially, but it was just gibberish as far as we could tell. And this is what I'll always say about Hawkins' ability. His fighting style is so stupid. It is the stupidest fighting style I've ever seen in One Piece for a strong character, because the idea of drawing cards to gain greater abilities is cool on paper, right? But that's not what Hawkins' ability actually is. Hawkins' ability is that if he draws the right cards, then he is able to fight like a decently if he draws the right cards, then he is allowed to fight, right? Because he drew the card, so he creates that straw doll, right? And he's like, let me see if I draw some good cards. I drew this card. Okay, my straw doll is allowed to attack. Okay, my straw doll is allowed to pursue you guys. Meaning that if he wasn't drawing the wrong, like, these aren't good abilities. These are just normal fucking things you should be able to do in a fight, right? So if he didn't draw the card of pursuit, is the fight just over for him? And that's not even to get into the bad luck cards that he gets that draw down. So it's like, it's not like his ability is, okay, I'm at this level as a fighter, and if I get, good cards, then I could do all this insane shit, right? It's like, if I draw the right cards, then I'm like a normal fighter. If I draw bad cards, I can't do anything at all. It's, what it doesn't even make sense. You understand what I'm saying? It'd basically be like if you had Killer, but for Killer to do the normal things he can do, he has to draw a certain correct card to do it. And otherwise he's just useless. So it's just a worse version of Killer. So initially I was like, Hawkins, I bet if he draws some really good cards, he'll be stronger than the Tobiropo. It's like, no. If he draws the absolute best cards he can draw, then he's still like, I don't know, probably weaker than the Tobi. I don't know. He's allowed to fight like he's a Tobiropo level character or something, maybe. I think even that's a stretch for it. It's hard to say. But it's just, he never seemed competent. He never seemed like he knew what he was doing. He was making lots of random predictions. He folds pretty much all the time. He's like a poker player that folds at the first sign of trouble. I think he's genuinely, and he never did a single impressive thing throughout the entire story, right? The coldest he ever seemed was when he kind of managed to capture Law briefly by threatening his crew, and it was like, that's the bare minimum use of your ability. That kind of makes sense. And then a chapter or two later, I swear it was not a chapter or two later, but very shortly soon after, like in a very short amount of time, we just cut to Law having already escaped and beaten him off screen, meaning that development was useless. So Hawkins, I put terrible. Apu, I personally never had high expectations for Apu, just because even though his ability seemed strong, affecting even Kizaru pre-time skip, even though it didn't hurt Kizaru, it seemed like a very difficult ability to deal with. Turns out you just have to shut your ears. But Apu, I just never, he seemed more gag bait, like he just seemed a bit of more of a ridiculous figure. I felt always like he might go down the Buggy or Foxy route, and he's not that bad just yet, but he is kind of just, at this point, that wacky gag character on the side in Wano he's still in Wano, they just don't view him as a threat anymore because he's just a nothing, he's just a joke basically, right? I'm going to give Apu an F+, because he's not as bad as Hawkins. JWP says, thanks for being a Yonko tier member for 3 months, man. How is Urouge an A+, bruh? Our entire knowledge of him is that he beat an unnamed commander and that he watched Kaido try to suicide himself. Because it's based on expectations. So this one's, the bottom row is level playing field. So Urouge is not going to be that high in, he's not going to be that high in a level playing field, right? Like, in terms of what he's actually done, it's nowhere close to Law. It'll still be a good grade, probably like a B or something, but it'll be nothing like that. But I'm just saying, Urouge seemed, if you go back and read Saboti, even during the Pacifista situation, the Khazar situation, Urouge seemed like the least threatening of the group. For Urouge to leapfrog all of these other supernovas seemingly in strength, right? I think that is significantly higher than what we expected. I think just the fact that Sampat Sakesh. Well, hold on. Let me do this real quick. Let me pull this up. Just the fact that I think if we look at chapter 933. Maybe I'm not quite there. No, 800. Pretty far off. Maybe 832. 831. Come on, I swear I'm getting closer. Where does Brûlé show up? Start messing stuff up. Really, where does Cracker show up? Shit. 836 maybe? Come on. Yeah. Alright, we're right about here. So if we look at this, right? I just think it's impressive that basically, out of all of these other supernovas, right? The only one that is basically given some respect. They're all tossed out like lightweights, etc. The only one who to get anywhere is Urouge. I think that is very impressive in that basically it's being acknowledged by Yonko Empire that this guy was a problem. And I just think that it's in relation to how we viewed everybody else, right? Where we viewed Urouge compared to everybody else. He was basically considered to be the weakest, right? Maybe not as weak as Beige or whatever, but just he didn't have much going for him at all. And I think no expectations pre-time skip. And then all of a sudden we're learning that basically he's the only one that's impressive. And here's the last thing I'll say. You have to consider this in terms of the rankings, or in terms of grading based on compared to expectations. It's not even just what Urouge has done. It's the fact that he's still around and still going. Everybody else, right? Urouge lasted longer than Kid, right? Kid might get back up, but at the moment, it's being declared that this was the annihilation of the Kid Pirates, right? We're grading based on what we see right now. So this crew out. Kid out. Law actually might be out, right? He might actually be out based on the last time we saw him. We don't know. Mystery up in the air. Bonnie, she doesn't have a crew as far as we know, and she actually was defeated even before, defeated and sent back to the world government, like recaptured by the world government even before the New World started. So she's already, you could argue that her story as a pirate is pretty much over, and she's just this person running around trying to get revenge for her dad, basically, right? Out. Kid out. Law potentially out. Apu out. Hawkins out. Drake out, right? Who's still standing? Urouge gets points for that. Beige still standing, gets points for that. Like, that's impressive. They've lasted this long in the New World. So, get significant. Like, who thought that these would be the last supernova standing, potentially, right? Drake. What do you guys want to rate Drake? And you got to look at what I've been rating him so far and kind of based on that. Do you think Drake was more impressive than Apu and Hawkins? I don't know. Sampat Sakesh Ravopati says, Yo Morj, not able to catch you during your DST. Daytime streams? What does that mean? Shanks was awesome. Kid took bad L. It seems Googling the unluckiest pirate shows Captain William Kidd. William L. Kidd. Yeah. I think Urouge is A+ based on his expectations. This is the level playing field. Level playing field means basically grading them all, basically grading them all as they are, right? With no expectations considered or anything. I'll give Drake a D. I think Drake, he worked his way up Yonko's crew's ranks. That's something. People want to give Drake a C. I don't think he's a C. Because based on his expectations... No, maybe he's a C. Whatever. He was he was fine, I guess. He just went out again in an embarrassing way. He did beat up another Supernova. He beat up Apu. I'll give Drake a C. And ultimately, he had ulterior motives, right? So, I don't know. Ty Studden says Drake is weaker than Izzo. I don't know. Yeah. Reverse 69 is 69. Good point. Law Morj, don't forget that Kid beat a Sweet Commander, then took a Poneglyph, then left Tataland, something Luffy needed Germa 66 and the Sun Pirates to do. Luffy beat 2 Sweet Commanders, and one of them was Katakuri, which is a lot more impressive. And Luffy did it with basically, yeah, he needed the Sun Pirates and Germa, but that's because he was missing his entire crew, right? He was missing all of his major forces, right? Zoro, Jinbei, Frankie, these guys weren't there. Robin, right? He actually went in with the weaker batch of characters, which is like Nami and Chopper. Brook was the best guy he brought along with him. Sanji was already captive in Big Mom's Island, so, that's pretty different. So Luffy did technically need help, but that's just because he showed up with half a crew. I'm sure that Kid actually showed up with the Kid Pirates. What do you think is a bigger help? The Sun Pirates, or if they had Zoro with them, Nami actually even literally references in they're inside Beige's castle, like Beige has created Big Father. She's telling Luffy, don't go out and fight. This is not the time for us to fight. Why don't we just wait? Once we have Zoro and the others back, that's when we can really fight, If Luffy had shown up with the full Straw Hat Pirates, then they would have done even more trouble than if Luffy had, Germa and Sun Pirates on his side, as we literally saw what happens in Wano when Luffy shows up with his whole Straw Hat crew. Mr. Crescent says, what if Bonnie's actually the daughter of Akainu or some other high-ranking Marine, and that's why she's in Marijua, and that's why she was captured by the world government? The daughter of Akainu or some high-ranking... Isn't she the daughter of Kuma? You're saying she's actually the daughter of somebody else. Yeah, there's the possibility. I still like to believe it's related to her abilities, but because her abilities are very unique, but it's starting to seem as though her abilities may not be as important. But I do wonder why she has the ability to age people in HP. That's such a special ability in the One Piece world to manipulate ages. It could do so much. It just seems arbitrary to give to a character that's just another supernova. That's not going to be that important, Tomahawk PWPT says Apu is still out there with intel on Wano's events as well as a few numbers on top of fighting and surviving half the alliance. He's not a success, but I get what you're saying, but it's not the same. As in, Apu basically his career as a pirate is an embarrassment. He's alive because they just left him alone because he's no longer a threat. So he's just chilling on Wano. On top of fighting and surviving half the alliance, Drake, Zoro, and Kid to just walk away in the end. Yeah, but most everyone survives, right? Surviving isn't I'm sure Kid's not dead. I'm sure Law won't be dead. It's more are they still successful, accomplished pirates doing things in the New World? As far as we've seen, Apu's an F+, right? If Apu does more, and if, as you say, he keeps coming back, Hawkins literally died, so he's a clean F, right? Apu basically did everything that Hawkins did. He's still just alive, and was maybe slightly more impressive, I suppose, in some ways, but he's still, in my opinion, an F+. I might give Apu a D. I'll give Apu a D. No, because it's just like, I don't know. Apu's better than Drake? No. Drake got ranked Toby Roppo, right? He was essentially one rank away, and he seemed respected among the Toby Roppo as far as I could tell. It's hard to say. He was a Toby Roppo. He reached the rank of a top officer for Yonko's crew. That's impressive, right? And Drake has done some successful stuff as far as we've seen, right? He's the only pirate that we know of that auditioned to get into a Yonko's crew and then worked his way up the ranks, right? Beige was forced into Big Mom's crew after being beaten, right? And he basically had to accept mercy. Hawkins, same thing, right? Apu, same thing. Like, other characters were defeated and forced to join Yonko crews. Drake came in with a mission, accomplished his mission right away at the start of the New World, and then he's doing successful things. He's traveling around. He's capturing Caribou. He seems more of a threat over the course of, trying to as protecting or being the police force in Wano than Hawkins was. I'd say, Drake kind of, he had good showings, right? He was too much for Sanji to handle during Act 2. This was before Sanji got his power up, of course, but he was too much for Sanji to handle, it looked like, in Act 2. He went even with Zoro in Act 3 before Zoro got his power up, right? And before Zoro was really trying, but he was doing good stuff, and he took out Apu, right? So that actually basically puts him above Apu in terms of performance. He just did more impressive stuff overall. JWP says Caribou is the most interesting man in One Piece. He has literally been around since Return to Sabaody. What is Oda cooking with Caribou? Yeah, Caribou has definitely a lot of potential with what that could lead to plot-wise, but I wouldn't say him as a character himself is interesting. Bash Ugg says Apu was always working undercover. He was never forced. No, but he always understood from the get-go that you can't beat Yonko. Like, he just came in with that assumption. So his motivation was always, I'm a bitch. I'm never going to beat a Yonko. He says as much to Kid. I'm a bitch. You're a bitch too. You just don't know it yet. We're never going to beat Yonko. So I just signed up for it right away, right? Apu was always he's basically just a rat, right? I think going from Supernova, hyped up worst generation, to basically just making a career as a rat is pretty sad. You might say Drake's a rat too because he's from the Marines, but we're kind of grading him outside the Marine scope. Let's pretend he's not a Marine. What's he been up to, and what has he actually done as a pirate? As a pirate, it's been impressive, right? I'm saying Apu is a pirate, but if you're in the Marines, you're just doing your job, right? You signed up for this shit, right? Apu was supposed to be a pirate, right? Like a pirate. So we're judging him as a pirate. He, as a pirate, was a rat, basically. He gave in very quickly. He's like, I can't do it. I'm a bitch. I'm gonna just work for Yonko. I'll pretend to team up with other pirates and lure them in and trick them and stuff like that because I'm too weak. We can't do anything, right? Pretty sad stuff in my opinion. Yeah. Like, compare that to Beige, who joins a Yonko crew, but with the mentality to take them down from the inside. I think that that's significantly more, and he gets away with it. It's more impressive. Okay. Let's go. Level playing field. This is where we're just objectively going through their accomplishments, right? We're gonna do this, and we're gonna call the stream. Level playing field. I think that so Kid there's a huge drop off after Kid and Killer. I would say level playing field. I would say Urouge is a B. See, level playing field is just so hard because there's just such a huge. Sorry, there's a drop off after Kid and Law. My bad. Everybody else has just done so much less, right? I'd say Urouge B-, right? Took out a sweet commander. I'd say Killer, I don't know, C+. Took out. This is kind of just what did they do, right? Took out Hawkins. That's what Killer did. No, I'll give Killer B- too because he damaged Kaido. I think that's pretty impressive, right? I think, yeah, I'd give Killer a B-, too. Maybe even a B. What's more impressive? Killer being part of the rooftop battle. Killer being part of the rooftop battle. I'll give him a B. That's better than Urouge. Because Urouge only beats Snack. If Urouge had beaten Cracker or above, that's different. Tomahawk PWPT says, so would you say Apu is a successful pie rat? Ha ha ha. No, because he's out of a job now. He joined the wrong side. Apu was objective, like he just joined he got away with it because he's just no longer viewed as a threat. So he didn't die because it's One Piece, but he wasn't even a successful rat, was he? He never attained a rank in Kaido's crew like Drake did. He was the first to be sold out by, fucking Queen sold him out right away. So Queen was like, fuck you. Kid was like, fuck you. Drake was like, fuck you. The Straughts were like, fuck you. Like, everybody just wrecked him, right? It's just back to back him getting his comeuppance. And then he just doesn't die because, and then CP0 of all things. He doesn't die because, again, it's One Piece. He's not going to die from it, but as far as we can tell, he's done for, right? He wasn't really a great rat either, was he? Samuel Hawk says, do you think Kid was a precursor to Blackbeard's story like NL/Dofi to Im? I just don't see enough similarities between Kid and Blackbeard's character yet. Was a rival to Luffy, but went about it wrong, hurting innocents, no training, so failed. Um, Maybe if we get more Blackbeard's story, it'll make sense. But I honestly think that Kid, there's so little writing around his character. Period. Guys, let's get the stream likes to 800. There's so little likes to so little likes. Sorry, Freudian slip. So there's a lot of likes, but there can always be more. So little writing around Kid. Period. That it's as though you can say Kid was a rival to Luffy, but went around it wrong, right? Hurting the innocent, not training. I don't think it's ever implied that Kid hurting the innocent. There's just no writing around it. It's almost never addressed. It's mentioned offhand, Kid hurts the innocent, but it's never written into the story that this is a core character flaw of Kid that's holding him back compared to Luffy. The lack of training, that's something that we can tell. We're like, yeah, Luffy trained up, Kid didn't. That's the biggest cause for their differences in strength, as we can tell right now. But at the same time, it's never really talked about in the story. We never really have any sort of, there's no real messaging being written in around it, like Kid realizing what is it that's holding me back? What's the difference between me and Luffy? There's no sense of introspection, no sense of no dialogue, no discussion, nothing. It's just we see Kid sucks and he doesn't know how to do shit, and we see Luffy can do shit, right? You can extrapolate a lot from that, but ultimately there's just not a lot of writing delving into what Kid is bringing to the story thematically, right? You can headcanon a lot of it, but not that much. Joe Mama says, Morj, talk about Dark Souls. You may have missed this, but I did come around to I think Dark Souls 3 is better than Dark Souls 1 now. I did just beat the Nameless King. So I'm coming off of yesterday I beat the Nameless King, so I'm coming off a pretty high point. I'm like, this was the best moment in all of Dark Souls 1 and Dark Souls 3. Dark Souls 3 had all of its best stuff towards the later part of its game. The beginning is really bad, and the middle it's not good for most of the game, and then Boreal Valley, the dungeon, the Profane Capital, this is when good stuff is starting to happen. And then I really enjoyed, Untended Graves, even the Consumed King's Garden, and I really liked the top of Lothric Castle and the Grand Archive, so I was really getting behind it. And then I did Archdragon Peak and did the Nameless King, and I'm just like, okay, this is really, the game really, really took off. And I know that the Ringed City is supposed to be really, really good, and I started Ashes of Ariendel and stuff. So it's just, I'm at a point where I'm like, okay, I think there's more reason. I'm not going to get into it here, but in a stream where because we're trying to finish out the report card, right? But the biggest reasons for why I wasn't enjoying Dark Souls 3 as much as Dark Souls 1 have kind of been reconciled, basically. And also, here's a minor thing, right? I'll just say this real quick. The biggest thing by far was I didn't have my Estus flask upgraded. All right? I wasn't burning the undead bone shards. It just wasn't happening. I just didn't do it. I did it once towards the beginning of the game, like some point in the game, because I always had my Estus flask at +2, but then I forgot about it, right? And then at one point I was just watching a video of people playing of a no-hit runner. No, not a no-hit runner. What's his name? Fighting Cowboy or whatever. Just playing or whatever. Because I like rewatching. I like watching people play stuff. Once I've beaten an area, I like watching that area done by a good player. Just because I get to relive it, but I'm relaxed. I'm just watching it happen or whatever. And I'm like, how is this flask so solid? And then I look up how you upgrade your flask. I was like, I know I got my flask to +2. How did I do it again? And it's undead bone shards. And then I burned all my undead bone shards and my flask went up to +7. And all of a sudden everything just, I was able to enjoy it so much. Lothric and Lorien became so much easier. Nameless King, I think I wouldn't have been able to do with the way my flasks were earlier or whatever. So, yeah. Dude, I wasn't burning the bone shards, but it's partly because I did them at one point. And then I forgot about it basically because the bone shards don't sound like a thing I would pick up a bone shard and I'm not really reading or whatever, but in the previous game I'm pretty sure it was you burn Firekeeper souls. There was something else that you burned that sounded more like it was related to the bonfire and the Estus flasks and stuff like that, right? Dark Souls 3, like, you're just given so many random garbage shit, right? Like, here's this clump or this coin or some, like, there's so many random stuff. If it doesn't sound immediately good, I just forgot, right? I forgot. I knew that my Estus flask should be more upgraded at some point because I could see in the top left it's at +2. I just figured, okay, probably late game I'll be able to upgrade it more. I don't even remember exactly how I upgraded it, but late game I'll be able to upgrade it. And then I'm watching a video of this guy, like, playing the Untended Grave section, and I'm like, man, his flask, how's it so upgraded? Like, I'm at this point in the game, why is it not there? And then it also made me just look back in retrospect and be like, this makes so many of the previous bosses make more sense to me, because I always felt like I know the games are supposed to be difficult, but I felt like the margins for error were too low, because if I got hit by a boss, I would need to drink twice from my Estus flask just to heal that back up, which makes every boss fight more difficult than it needs to be, because it's just, you need to find 2 opportunities to heal. You fuck up one of those opportunities, then now you're down even twice as much as you were before, and you're basically near death. And you're basically, like, it's just, it changes so much. So everything just became so much, I don't know. Anyway. Nero Biblio says you have a prompt to burn the undead bone shard. No, because if you sit, well, okay, you do, but if you sit at the main Firelink shrine, right, then it does show up, but it's just one of the options, right? It's not popping up, burn your undead bone shard. It's not popping up. It's one of the options that's there. So, I don't know. Like, I did it once, and then I forgot about it. I forgot that's the thing you can do. And every time I go back to that Firelink bonfire shrine, like, I'm kind of speeding through it. Like, I'm just like, get in, get out, do my level up thing, or upgrade my weapon or whatever, and then get out. So I'm not really, like, Anyway. Okay. Let's do this. Level playing field, I would give Beige a B. I give him a C+, right? C+, I think, is good. Apu, I think, I'll give him a D. I'll give him a D. I'll give Hawkins a D. They amounted to about the same thing, right? I'll give Drake a C, because he got to a higher rank in his Yonko's crew than Beige did, but then Beige was able to disrupt the established order. Drake kind of just went down with the ship. That's basically it. So, looking at the report card, what do you guys prefer? Do you guys prefer, now looking at the full thing, the expectations angle of it or the level playing angle of it? Like, obviously, in the real world, everyone gets their report cards, their grades on the same playing field, right? So it's just this. But, we know these characters. We want to grade them based on what we expected of them initially, in my opinion. And so, wait, why is Drake's... This isn't a failing grade. Hold on. McDonald said, a couple months ago, you were saying you don't like single-player games. How do you feel now after FromSoft? So the thing is, like, I did always like Zelda games, but those were the only games I really played. And FromSoft games, they so far feel, I don't know, similar, but just, like, way harder and way... They're similar but different. I don't know. Maybe it's because I haven't played enough that I don't have enough standards to compare to. But I still believe I wouldn't enjoy a single-player shooter game. I don't know yet if I'm just if I tried some other games, right? Like if I played, I don't know, The Witcher, would I enjoy it? I don't know. I just know that I enjoyed these games quite a bit. That's it. Level playing. Okay, so people are saying expectations. Others just saying expectations are more interesting. Wrench Dodger says level playing field is more fair law. Yeah, if you really want to evaluate them as pirates, Kid reached a very high level as a pirate. Law reached a very high level as a pirate. Honestly, if we're looking at level playing field, I started this stream by saying, and this is just going to be what I'm going to say from here on, the worst generation truly are the worst generation. These pirates are garbage, right? So, like, these guys came in supposed to be this next era of great figures, that's comparable to that Rocks, Roger, Whitebeard, Kaido, Shiki batch of pirates that came up, Captain John, all of those guys, right? They're supposed to be like that. Who are we really getting out of this era? Luffy, Blackbeard, all of the rest of them are fucking done, right? Like, Luffy and Blackbeard, that's it. It was basically the same as it was from the beginning of the story, which is we understand it's Luffy and Blackbeard as the two upcoming pirates of this era. Now, Law might still go somewhere, but we know that Law ultimately, he's at his limit as far as I can tell in terms of just being a... I think Oda's really stretched the limit of what he can do as a fighter, because Law is not... He's not a Conqueror's Haki user. He's not a Haki user in general. He's not a competent Haki user in general. No advanced armament, no advanced observation. In fact, forget advanced Haki. Law cannot even coat his fucking sword in Haki. The most basic thing a swordsman should be able to do. Law cannot do that, right? He has a really, really strong Devil Fruit, but you can only go so far with that, right? Even Blackbeard as he is right now, Blackbeard has 2 Devil Fruits, right? 2 broken-ass Devil Fruits, the 2 maybe strongest Devil Fruits in existence. And even then, he's not quite on par with, Haki masters like Shanks and Kaido and stuff, right? So even Blackbeard probably needs a 3rd fruit to put himself over the top and really get to that level. So I just don't see Law. Law's only got 1 Devil Fruit. And it's not, it's not the Gura Gura no Mi. It's not the Yami Yami no Mi. He's just got 1 Devil Fruit. It's a really, really good Devil Fruit, but if he's not going to be that good at Haki, I don't see him breaking into that top tier of, legendary pirates. Maybe he will by the end, but I just don't see it, right? Again, with Blackbeard, even with Blackbeard, who has 2 of the strongest fruits in existence, maybe the 2 strongest fruits in existence, even he's not quite at that level of, Roger, Whitebeard, even Shanks, Mihawk, Kaido, and stuff just yet. So it's, even Blackbeard will probably need another fruit just to get there. So, with Law being just a fruit dude, I think it's possible we might see him at his limit. You guys know I'm biased against Law, so maybe I'm inaccurate, but tell me what I'm not saying is correct here. So, so across the board, with all of these worst generation pirates, they fucking, why is this a legendary era of pirates, right? Why is this a legendary generation? It just isn't, right? When you've got the 3rd best pirate, Luffy and Blackbeard, probably going to be the 2 strongest pirates of all time when it's all said and done. So that's exceptional. But then you move one step down, and it's the 3rd best pirate, Law, is a dude that doesn't even hit Admiral level, right? You're comparing to, again, the era that had Rocks, Roger, Whitebeard, Kaido, Big Mom, Shiki, all of these, so many great pirates. It's this one, it's just got 2. So Kid is really the only other dude where it's do or die at this point, right? If this generation of pirates is anything less than a joke, for it to not be a joke, right? Kid would need to step it up and at least hit genuine Yonko level by the time all is said and done. Otherwise, this era is basically the 2 greatest pirates of all time, then big gap, and you got dudes that'll get one-shotted by Shanks, basically, and stuff down, right? Am I crazy? Shawnee says, after Dark Souls, try Hollow Knight. Give it an hour or 2 and you'll have a really good time knowing you. But it's 2D. I don't know. It's 2D. Maybe. I'm done. I'm not trying to knock Law anymore, right? I'm saying, let's pretend if this is the ceiling of where Law gets to, right? It's a high ceiling as far as the worst generation goes. Let's say even hypothetically it's close to Admiral level, right? I think you could make that argument. Sorry, let's say it's close to Admiral level, right? Fine. In that case, is that still not wildly disappointing that the 3rd best pirate of this generation is not even Admiral level, right? When you're comparing to the actual previous great generations of pirates, right? I mean, you can go... yeah, it's just... It makes no sense, right? The worst generation, terrible disappointment in my opinion. Yeah. I would say even, looking at the Shanks, Mihawk, Shanks' generation, with that you had Shanks, you had Mihawk. You have to count Dragon as well, because Dragon is ultimately just a more extremist pirate, right? He's a revolutionary technically, but he's he's in that world of criminals. It's just that he's more hardcore than the other pirates, right? In any other context, you would consider Dragon to be a pirate. It's just he's more hardcore than the pirates, right? Dragon would be a Yonko if he was in the pirate world, basically, right? So I'm just looking at these groups. There's just nothing here. Talaja Hunt says Zoro, Sanji, Ace, Yamato's pirates greater than the worst gen. I'm not counting pirates that are already in a pirate crew because, I mean, I didn't count Rayleigh for that other generation either, right? Like, great, you got good subordinates and stuff. I'm talking about the pirates that'll really go down in history are the pirate captains, right? That's true. Ace is out of the picture. That's one of the biggest things. If Ace was in the picture, then we're talking about basically 3 pirates that could each potentially have the potential for being the strongest pirates of all time, right? Because we knew Ace's potential. Ace's ceiling was probably the same as Roger's or something like that. Who knows? Maybe more, maybe less. Because Ace is more temperamental and doesn't have his mentals together exactly. But in terms of potential, I think Ace was always portrayed as too much of a good potential, which is why he needed to be removed from the story so that Luffy could take his place, right? I'm not saying Ace had more potential than Luffy or anything like that. It's just he clearly had the leg up on Luffy in many ways, right? Conqueror's Haki earlier, blood of the actual Pirate King running through his veins, right? Better fruit, at least initially. Just a lot more going for Ace early on. Luffy has caught up, and I don't want to get into a debate about potential or whatever, but Luffy's the main character at the end of the day. But at the very least, we could say, could Ace have ended up as one of the top 4 strongest pirates ever? Yeah, probably. So if things turned out a slightly different way, then yeah, Luffy, Ace, Blackbeard, that's pretty insane. You know. Kane699 says if we count Dragon, we count Sabo. You know what? You're right. But that's the thing. Sabo set off to be a pirate. So maybe counting Dragon is cheating. I agree with that. Counting Dragon is cheating. Sabo did set off to be a pirate, but I don't count Sabo as a pirate. So you're right. Counting Dragon is just me stretching. But still, is this a really good generation of pirates? I don't think so. I think things are on Kid right now to turn it around. Because Kid is Conqueror's Haki, and that is essentially essential to reach that final level, isn't it? Again, the only exception that we know of in the story is Blackbeard. And that's kind of the point, which is that Blackbeard needs multiple, like, you can't just, even with just 2 of the strongest fruits in existence, even he is still not quite at that level that you can get to with Advanced Conqueror's Haki. So that's kind of the point, right? Which is that for most anyone to be top tier, you need Advanced Conqueror's Haki. Kid is the only one left with really that potential. Blackbeard basically has to break all the rules and stack up on multiple most powerful devil fruits in existence just to push himself artificially into contention for that, right? But outside of that, there's nobody else here that really has the potential there, right? I'll say this, even if this isn't the ceiling for Law, let's say Law even gets to Admiral level by the end of the story. If the final lineup is like Luffy, Blackbeard, it's still a huge drop off then, right? Like if the 3rd strongest pirate is Green Bull level, this isn't exactly that great of a... It's not the same as Roger's generation, is it? So, the worst generation, I'd say overall, fairly disappointing. I just don't know why they're considered the worst generation, because you just look around, there's so many stronger, like, Apu, Hawkins, Drake, why were these guys such a big deal, right? You look around the New World, you'll find random characters stronger than them. Fucking Izzo, the most forgettable Whitebeard pirate, is stronger than Drake. Random CP0 members are stronger than these guys, right? Doflamingo, like, that's not even getting into shit like Doflamingo, or, you know, Boa Hancock and things like that, right? Why are these guys such a big deal? I don't get it. Anodagaral says, when was the era where Shanks doesn't one-shot number 3? The Rocks, Roger, Whitebeard era. Rocks, Roger, Whitebeard, Kaido, Big Mom, Shiki. Shanks is not one-shotting any of those guys, right? That's just not happening. I'm trying to think. Maybe it's a strong era compared to the rest of the pirate age for the last 20 years. So maybe there was never a lineup of like this many strong pirates all at once. But yeah, maybe there's an argument there. but it's definitely not as strong as the era that, Whitebeard talks fondly about as he talks to Shanks on his ship, right? The old season stuff. Jolly D. Joestar says they were making super fast progress in comparison. That's true. It's just that's true. The speed of progress matters a lot because maybe none of them reached their ceilings. Maybe their ceilings were a lot higher. It's just that they happen to be caught up in an era that also is the start of the biggest war in the ocean, right? So they were caught in a great war between two Yonko empires. Damn it. They were caught in a great war between two Yonko empires. So they basically had to, have their stories cut short or forced to hit their ceilings prematurely, I suppose. David Samuel says you're comparing Prime characters to kids. Yeah, but at the end of the day, they're not. A lot of them are not kids, so it's easy to forget. But Beige is in his 40s and shit. A lot of these characters are actually, they're adults. They don't have that excuse. You can give them the experience excuse, and that they're not quite there experience-wise just yet. So I get that. I will say, I suppose, that I think it was just, it was, the ceilings that they hit were a lot less than what we thought about, Tala Jahan says, Sanji/Seraphim could be top tier without Conqueror's Haki, #science. Yeah, you're right. So, artificial methods. So, what I mean is basically Blackbeard having 3 of the strongest devil fruits ever. Or laboratory creations and stuff. We already see the potential of them, right? So I'm talking about straight up fighters, right? None of the characters here fall in those categories of being special cases, right? JWP says, do you think Blackbeard realized that he didn't have Conqueror's Haki/will, so that's why he went the complete opposite route, almost monopolizing devil fruits, stealing a lot for a crew, having 2, negating others? I do think that that's very possible. Blackbeard is just generally a smart, opportunistic character. It is yet to be seen if he doesn't have Conqueror's Haki. I put out a video a while ago talking about why I don't think he does, but it's possible. He pulled out Armament Haki against the Mihawk Seraphim. In terms of expectations, I think it was a pleasant surprise that some of the Supernova that we thought would be not as strong, right? Killer, Urouge, Beige. Beige never turned out to be strong, but a lot of the Supernova that we didn't have high expectations for are the ones that actually did very well, right? So Killer, impressive. Urouge, impressive. Beige did some shit, right? And then the Supernova that were basically the guys that seemed like they had some impressive potential during the Supernova battle against Kizaru and the Pacifistas, Apu, Hawkins, Drake, they kind of sucked. Drake, weaker than Izzo. And then between the monster trio among Supernovas, right? Kid, Luffy, and Law. Law just took off in terms of story significance, narrative significance in a way that I think nobody was expecting. Even if you thought he'd be very strong, I don't think anybody expected that he would dominate the story the way he did throughout Punk Hazard, Dressrosa, and even now from Wano onwards. And so the strength that he's reached makes sense. It kind of tracks for the level of significance Oda has been writing for him. But I still think it's a lot more than we initially thought at Sabaody, which is why A+ makes sense. And Kid, nothing to be said about Kid. Nothing to be said about Kid, man. All right. Yeah, Beige exceeded most people's expectations. All right, guys. No, I agree. A lot of these guys are young. I'm saying a lot of these other Supernova, right? If we're looking, pretty sure Beige, Apu, Hawkins, Drake, they're on the older side, right? Let's see. Apu, age, One Piece, 29. That's not old, but that's in your prime, right? I don't think you can use age as an excuse anymore. Hawkins, age, One Piece. Is also 29. So they're 31 after the time skip. So they're in their 30s. I don't think age is an excuse anymore. X-Drake, One Piece, age. X-Drake is 33 after the time skip. Urouge is 47. And beige is 42. I didn't realize beige is the oldest. Law's 26, so Law's the same age as me, pretty much. I'm 1 year older. Kid is 23. Okay. I mean, so age isn't an excuse for most of these characters, but, you know, experience level is. All right, guys. I think we're good for today. Thanks for tuning in. And I will talk to you all later. I will talk to you all later. Thanks.